Today, I found out that my parents gave my entire college fund over to my older sister, just so she could start up her business under the assumption that she would eventually pay them back. But after $60,000 in student loans, I'm finally coming to grips with the fact that my parents lied to me and my sister benefited and essentially put me into debt, putting me in a situation where I am like really pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and don't forget to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, so I graduated from college last year with a little over $60,000 in student loans. Growing up, my parents always told my sister and I that they had separate college funds for the both of us. Now, my sister decided not to go to college and started working right after high school, and eventually she moved out. But when it came time for me to apply to colleges, my parents suddenly told me that there wasn't nearly as much money saved as they expected. They said investments had gone badly and they'd help where they could, but I would need to take out loans. And sure, it sucked, but I accepted it because I figured, all right, whatever, life happens, right? Well, a few months ago, while helping my parents clean out old paperwork, I accidentally found bank statements showing that my college fund hadn't disappeared because of bad investments. Apparently, it had been emptied over several years with transfers to my sister. Now, when I confronted my parents about this, they admitted that when my sister wanted to open a business a few years ago, they quietly gave her most of my college fund because they believed that she really would pay it back, but guess what? She never did. And the worst part about it was that nobody told me. They let me believe the money was simply gone while I signed loan after loan. Well, eventually I confronted my sister, at least expecting some kind of apology. But instead, she told me that her business helped the entire family, and apparently I was lucky to have gotten an education at all. She said I was acting entitled because, well, it's our parents' money after all. Fast forward, and my sister's getting married in a few months, and she wants me to be a bridesmaid like nothing happened. But I told her, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be attending unless she at least acknowledges what happened, and at the bare minimum, at least apologize for benefiting from money that had been set aside for my future. Now, my parents think that I'm trying to ruin the wedding over something that happened years ago, and even some of my relatives are saying that I should just forgive her because, oh, it's your sister, her wedding's coming up. But from where I'm standing, they all lied to me for years, and I'm the only one still paying for that decision every single month. So am I the jerk here? Like, am I out of line in some way? Because I really don't know what to do, and I'm still very pissed off. Okay, holy crap, your sister is super entitled. She's really trying to be like, oh wow, it's our parents' money, you're really entitled. And yet she also benefited from our parents' money. Like, why is she trying to act like she didn't have anything to do with this? Are you kidding me right now? She literally was able to get her business off the ground because of that money, which is the same money that the original poster should have had available for college. And like, truly, if my parents were like, sorry, we can't help you with college, I probably would have a similar reaction of like, okay, life happens, I'll take out a loan and I'll figure it out. But to then find out that, yeah, there was money, but we didn't give it to you. Like, this doesn't just fall on the sister, this falls on the parents as well. Because good lord, they could have helped out their kid. They could have like completely helped them so that they wouldn't have $60,000 in student loans. Like, these people are just a bunch of liars and thieves, dude. It really sucks. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting to go to the wedding. I think you are kind of like setting a precedent that you're gonna have to live with pretty much regardless, because not going is probably gonna tear some like relations apart. So if you really want to follow through with that, I mean, go for it if you feel like it's right. Because hey, all of this goes away if your sister just apologizes and acknowledges that, yeah, mom and dad helped me out. Like, that's not that big of a deal, and it's not that hard to at least admit that they're in the wrong. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you're justified. I think this really does make sense. And I think if I was in your shoes, I would probably have a very similar reaction. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe if you haven't already, but also check out Am I the Genius? They're like that one friend that rolls up when it's like raining outside and you're walking home because your girlfriend dumped you, and they just roll up and they're like, bro, get in, I got you. Like, that's the experience with Am I the Genius, so please check them out. Also, submit your stories at amithejerk.com/submit. We would love to hear your stories and your comments because you guys have like so much experience that we would love to hear about. Speaking of comments, guys, I think we have a trend going on in the comment section. The last time I featured Emmett's comment where he gave us a 10 out of 10, like a crazy Emmett score. Everybody else has jumped on the bandwagon. They're like, you know what? I give this video also an Emmett 10 out of 10. So thank you to Aaron is what I'm going to call you. And also Moss. Like, you guys are awesome. I appreciate the Emmett 10 out of 10. And also big shout out to Emmett for giving us like this new grading system, I guess. But anyways, let's get on with the video and on to the next story. Am I the jerk for not sharing my dash camera footage after getting in an accident? Because the lady who caused it is desperately trying to get it for some reason. But despite her pleadings, I've still said that I'm not going to give it to her, and honestly, I don't know if that makes me a jerk or not. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I was driving on the highway a few days ago with two of my buddies when another driver merged into my lane without enough space. And as a result, I ended up rear-ending her. My car now has front-end damage, and I'm still waiting to see if it's totaled. Meanwhile, her car spun out, hit the barrier, and was totaled, but thankfully she wasn't hurt. Well, the police arrived and determined that she was at fault for an unsafe lane change and actually wrote her a ticket, and she only got her license about 2 weeks ago. Now, I have dash camera footage of the incident itself, and this lady saw it at the scene and immediately started demanding that I show it to her, but I refused to do so since fault was already determined, and honestly, I really just wanted insurance to handle it. Her dad then arrived later and also told her to stop making a scene about it and just accept that she's a new driver and she messed up and maybe is not ready to be a driver. Well, her insurance has accepted fault, but since then, she's been texting me repeatedly and even called me and was upset at me. But I really don't think I'm obligated to share it when everything's already settled, and I've always been told not to share more than necessary, even though it would still be very clearly her doing an unsafe lane change. So seriously, am I the jerk for keeping this to myself? Because I'm not sure what to make of this. Oh yeah, this lady's trying to pull one over on you. There's no way in the world I would ever share that crap with her for a second. Knowing your luck, she'll get that footage and be like, okay, now I can sue you because this was the wrong verdict. Or something like that. She's clearly trying to I don't know, get some evidence against you, or maybe try to see if she can prove that no, you're actually at fault, which can happen, dude. Anything could happen in this case. And if you hand that over to her, it's like giving her the golden ticket to be like, yeah, go ahead and sue me. So no, I would not give her that footage. I would block her number and move on, especially if this is already settled like you said, because this lady sounds super annoying and I would never want to deal with that. Am I really the jerk for complaining about paying rent, as my mom suddenly changed the amount at the last second right when I was about to pay, putting me in a situation where I'm essentially being evicted out of this place and forced to move in about a month? Because at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's basically how it all went down. I'm a 20-year-old male living with my mom and 4 brothers, and all of them are over 20 years old. About 2 years ago, my mom started asking us to contribute financially. At the time, she was renting a house and asked each of us to pay $300 a month in rent. On top of that, she wanted us to take turns buying groceries for 1 week each month. Now, I never complained because she still covered part of my phone bill, and I had just recently started working in her business. When the lease on the house was ended, we had to find a new place to live. Now, I'm not really picky as long as there's good air conditioning and wood floors, but my mom specifically wanted a house with a river or a golf course view and a pool. But I always felt those things were just completely unnecessary because they made the rent much more expensive, and I even considered moving out on my own. Eventually, they found a new house and told each of us that we would have to pay $690 a month plus groceries. And you know what? I agreed to stay instead of moving out based on that amount. One of my brothers is constantly late on rent or sometimes just doesn't even pay for months, and that has always caused tension. The problem though is that whenever my mom brings it up, she makes passive-aggressive comments like, oh, I don't agree how some people pay and others don't, clearly implying that I'm the one who's not paying. And that makes me really angry because I've literally only missed one payment, and as soon as it was mentioned, I paid both months immediately. For about a year now, I've had an arrangement with my mom that I send my rent on the 24th every month. The reason is because she helped me finance my car to lower my monthly payment, so it was just easier for me to keep track of everything that way. So every single month, I've paid on that day without any issue. Well, yesterday, my mom sent me a message in the family group chat saying she needed everybody's rent that same day. I then replied that I always send mine on the 24th like we agreed, but she responded that it's not whenever I want, and that if I don't like it, then I can find somewhere else to live. Oh, and in that same group chat, she also changed the rent from $690 all the way up to $750 and repeated the same thing. If anyone didn't like it, they could just move out. I then reminded her that we already had an agreement about when I would pay, but she just kept saying the same thing. And at that point, I got upset and I sent the money anyways, saying something like, okay, here's the amount since you need it so bad. Don't count on me for any more plans because you always act like I don't pay. She then immediately sent the money back and told me to find somewhere else to live, and that she didn't want to see me there in August anymore. So seriously, am I the jerk for arguing back after constantly being treated like I don't pay rent, even though I literally do, and after the rent amount was suddenly changed from what I originally agreed to? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I would happily move out of that place and find somewhere else to live. Holy crap. Because what you're describing sounds so annoying, dude. Seriously, dude, the fact that she changed the rent at the last second and said, oh, if you don't like it, then you can move out. First off, she probably upped the ante so she can pocket some of that money. Like, that's honestly exactly what's going on. Or she's just completely unorganized and she didn't do the math correctly. And in my opinion, both scenarios suck entirely. And that would be more than enough of like a solid reason to move out and never look back. So no, you're not the jerk for like complaining about rent. You have a right to do so. And the fact that she's kicking you out all of a sudden and being like, oh, don't be back in August. Like, bro, consider that a blessing in disguise. I would get out of there and happily find my own place. Because this kind of energy sucks and I would hate to deal with that. Am I the jerk for refusing to be a part of my sister's wedding, as the things that she would have me do as her maid of honor is kind of jeopardizing my relationship with my boyfriend? Because right now, I'm now getting a lot of heat from a lot of different family members. And at this point, I'm really not sure what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my sister and I have always been close. So when she asked me to be her maid of honor, I was so excited to help her plan everything out and to just be involved with the wedding. It felt like every day she would call me to help with like details for her wedding. And you know what? I still loved helping her out. Her wedding's in August, and since her fiance's well off, they're going all out. We're talking exclusive venues, top chefs for catering, wearing an expensive dress, like pretty much everything. And if you ask me, some of it is pretentious, but like, hey, it's her wedding, so go for it. Now, her fiance's best man is also his brother, who is ironically the same age as me. And my sister wants him and I to walk down the aisle together and have our own dance at the wedding, which the first one I obliged to, I was like, whatever. But the second one I felt was really weird. Like, I've never really heard of something like that before. I kept asking her why she wanted that, and she just kept not giving an answer, saying instead, oh, it's my wedding, and that's just what I wanted. Now, here's the thing. I've been dating my boyfriend for like 8 months now, and this is my longest relationship I've ever been in. He treats me well, and there's this spark that I've never had with any other guys. But on the other hand, my parents and sister all hate him, and this all has to do with the fact that he's a personal trainer and he has no plans on like going to university. Now, I should also say they haven't flat out told me that they don't like him, but instead it's just these snide remarks and this tone of voice when they're talking about him that honestly drives me nuts. Now, my boyfriend wasn't thrilled about me doing this dance with a guy either. In fact, last week we started to learn the choreography and it is weirdly intimate and personal. It made me uncomfortable to be so close to another man who wasn't my boyfriend, not to mention that he made comments calling me beautiful and that he loved my eyes. Well, I told my sister the things that he said and that the dance in his comments made me feel very uncomfortable. And if we could just not do the dance, but she wouldn't listen to me. She just kept insisting, oh, it's my wedding and this is what I wanted. But it's here that I straight up told her, listen, if you're not going to cut the dance, then I don't want to be your maid of honor. But she said the dance was non-negotiable. So this morning, I dropped off my maid of honor dress at her flat and I told her, hey, I'm not going to be a part of your wedding. And now, as a result of this, my entire family is blowing up my phone in our group chat. My mom's yelling at me for being disrespectful, and my sister's crying and freaking out on how to proceed with her wedding. I guess I wish my beliefs were respected, so I didn't have to do that. But seriously, am I really the jerk for backing out of being her maid of honor? Especially because this whole situation made me uncomfortable? Because right now, I just really don't know what to do. Okay, bro, this is one of those obvious situations where it's like, yeah, they're definitely trying to set you up. They're basically trying to force this other guy on you under the guise of like, oh yeah, this is my wedding and I want you two to dance together. And it's like, dude, you can't force that kind of thing. That is so stupid. You're clearly in a relationship you really enjoy and you're with somebody that you like. So like, why would they try to ruin that? And also, this guy she's being forced to like dance with, he sounds like a total creep. Like, what are we doing? Even if they're just dancing for show and this really is a part of her wedding, it is incredibly unprofessional for this guy to be looking at her and being like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. I love your eyes so much. Like, holy crap, what are you doing? This isn't the time for you to confess these weird feelings for me, buddy. If anything, this is just dance practice. Like, this really should not mean anything. But clearly that's not their intentions. They obviously want you to get with this guy and just dump your boyfriend. And it's such a shady thing for her to be like, oh, you have to do this. This is my wedding and I'm forcing you. You have no choice. Like, bro, I'll happily play a role in your wedding and help out wherever I can, but you're not going to jeopardize my relationship in the process. That is crazy. And the fact that they're almost trying to force you to do that is just completely unfair. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This is some weird behavior in my opinion. And I think backing out of this wedding is probably the best thing for your relationship. I'm worried that my director is going to fire me from my job, all because I beat her in the vice president election for the executive board. Because honestly, this is really on target for the way she acts, and I'm at a point where I really need this job and I don't want her to like ruin it for me. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my director is truly a piece of work. I work in higher education and career services, and in my state, there's an executive board in student affairs and career services that has a president, a vice president, a secretary, treasurer, assistants, etc. And the purpose of the organization is to like basically provide professional development presentations for professionals in career services in student affairs in the state. I served on the board for 2 years as an assistant, and every 2 years we do re-elections. And honestly, it's an extremely easy volunteer job for all roles. Now, one woman on the board reached out to me in April and asked if I was interested in the vice president role because she was running for president. And when she offered this, I agreed, and she eventually nominated me. Well, the ballots came out in May, and it's here that I find out that my director nominated herself for vice president. She's never been on the board, by the way, and we were the only two running for this role. I never said anything to her, and she never said anything to me, and there was some chatter in the office that we were running against each other, but eventually the results came out, and today I won. And honestly, I was so excited. I never held a higher role in my life. I know it was just for the board, but I felt so proud of myself. But I also knew that my boss would be really upset. But I just blew it off and I told myself, hey, I'm jumping ahead. She's gonna be okay. Well, shortly after, she saw the results and she emailed me to say, oh, congratulations. But listen, I'm kind of concerned about you managing this. You are also teaching a class this fall at university. You need to talk to me about my concerns before you accept it. Now, I've been doing this teaching job for years now, and I need it because it pays me money. She also has to authorize approval to allow me to teach every year because it is an extra job. Now, like I said, the board work is super simple, but it would definitely be on brand for her to retaliate and take away the teaching job if I refuse to give her this role. I guess I made a huge mistake winning fair and square because right now I really feel stuck, and at this point I don't know what to do. Okay, bro, if this lady really is gonna try and like axe your career, then I would go to human resources with this email and all of your concerns. Like seriously, I would get ahead of this like immediately. Because just like some of the people in the comments section are saying, like, dude, this is like a gift for you. This idiot director was dumb enough to put in writing that, oh yeah, I'm kind of concerned about you accepting this. Because good lord, like what is she concerned about? You've been able to work on the board and do your job at the same time, no problem. And you said it yourself, the board work is easy. It's literally the most simplest stuff ever. So if anything, I think this just comes down to the fact that your director is salty that she lost. She wanted that vice president position and you got it instead. And now she's probably thinking, well, how can I sabotage this? Which, if I'm being honest, is something she probably would try to do, like especially with the way she's acting. So yeah, man, if I was in your shoes, I would go to human resources yesterday. Because if you're right about this lady, then she's probably going to try and sabotage you, and that would really suck if she's successful. My neighbor is demanding that we put my dogs on a schedule to go outside, all because he doesn't like the fact that they're barking. Because ever since he's like cleared out all the trees that blocked his house from mine, he's been complaining nonstop that my dogs are way too loud, even though they literally didn't know he existed until he cleared out the vegetation. Here's basically what's happening. Okay, so about 5 years after we bought our house, the house above us sold as well. We have 1.5 acres on a slope, and the house above us has about the same amount of property, and for all the time that we lived there, we couldn't even see the house due to the trees and the vegetation. But eventually, this guy decided to clear it all out for a better view. And well, because of that, my dogs that I'd had when we purchased the home started barking when he was on his deck. To them, it was like someone in our yard since they hadn't seen him before due to the trees being in the way. They are small dogs, like maybe 10 pounds, and they didn't really bark for like long periods of time, but they would only really do it when he would first go out and he was on his deck. Like that's when they would bark for like maybe a few minutes. Well, one evening, we get a text message from this guy that says, you need to shut your dogs up. I'm on a business Zoom meeting. And honestly, my initial reaction was to stay outside with them and get the squeaky toys so they would bark like crazy. But instead, I let them go potty and then I brought them back inside. Later, I texted and reminded him that they didn't bark until he cleared all the trees and that they don't go outside alone, so it's not like they are out barking endlessly. He texts me back and says that he would like us to agree to schedule for letting them out just so he can work on his deck in peace. But you know what? I said no, we're not agreeing to that. And I reminded him that we had the dogs when he bought his house, and it wasn't reasonable to try and like dictate our schedule. And honestly, I'm just blown away by this guy's entitlement because seriously, all of these problems literally are his own fault. Yeah, dude, if you don't like the fact that the neighbors have dogs and they're barking a lot, then maybe you shouldn't have got rid of your trees, dude. The dogs didn't even know you existed until you tore those down. Like, this guy literally caused his own problems, and then he's like, you need to like schedule when your dogs are outside. Because yeah, my reaction would be the exact same as the original poster. I would be tempted to be like, oh yeah, let's get these squeaky toys and go to town. Because this guy's got no right to make these kind of demands, and it's just comical that he thought he could boss these people around. Am I the jerk for cutting off my neighbor's Wi-Fi after they literally changed my router's password without asking me first? Because they seriously caught an attitude with me after I demanded that they change it back, so I decided to kick them off and just really remove them entirely. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not. Okay, for starters, I moved into a duplex about 6 months ago. My neighbor and I got along pretty well, and since my internet plan was faster than theirs, I offered to let them use my Wi-Fi until they got their own service set up. Well, that turned into months of them using it, which I really didn't mind because they offered to chip in every now and then. But a few days ago, my internet suddenly stopped working. I logged into the router, and it's here that I realized the admin password had been changed. I then asked my neighbor if they knew anything about it, and they casually admitted that they had changed it because they wanted to organize the settings after buying some smart home devices. And it's here that they said, oh, we just forgot to tell you about the new password. I then asked them to change it back, and they acted like I was making a big deal out of nothing. They kept saying, well, you still have internet, so what's the problem? And I gotta be honest, that really bothered me because it's my account, it's literally my equipment, and they changed the password without asking. So you know what? I removed all the devices from the network and I changed every single password that I could. And now as a result, they're upset because they work from home a couple of days a week, and they said I put them in a difficult spot. A couple of my other neighbors also think that I should have just given them the new password and talked it out later since we had been sharing anyways. But I personally don't think the issue is the Wi-Fi itself. I think it's that they changed access to something that wasn't theirs without asking. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to make of this anymore. Okay, talk about selfish. Dude, I hate people like this. Like seriously, the original poster didn't need to help them out. He really could have just moved on with his life and said, sorry, can't give you any Wi-Fi, don't know how to help you. But instead, he was being nice enough to be like, yeah, sure, you can use my internet in the meantime. And these people took that as like an invitation to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna use it all the time. And then for them to like change the password and be like, well, what's the big deal? We're just changing some settings. You still have internet, right? Like, bro, what are you talking about? It's my stuff. You can't just do that and expect me to be okay with it or even give me an attitude about it. So no, you're not the jerk. These people deserve to have their own internet. If they really want to adjust the settings, then they could do that on their own time and with their own devices. Because this kind of behavior is weird and you just should not have to deal with that. My mom wants to gain custody over my child, all because I came out as transgender, claiming that because I plan on medically transitioning, I could never be a good parent to my daughter. And now I am just so furious over the things she said to me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this is a somewhat long story, but to shorten it up, I've been questioning for about 6 to 7 years now. I told my mother when I started questioning my gender identity, which was when I was about 16 years old. I got the whole, oh, it's just a phase speech, and then I went about my life. But for the next 6 years, I continued questioning. Now, I am a mother of a 3-year-old and nearly 23 years old. I finally figured it out and decided that I want to be male. For the past 2 months, I've been carefully planning out how I'm going to make this as smooth of a transition as possible when I eventually decide to medically transition. I plan to get therapy for myself and my daughter when she's old enough to help her understand, as well as have a talk with her, since this will affect her just as much, if not more, than it will affect me. And I completely understand that. I plan on doing weekly therapy for a year, if not 2, before doing the transition. Now, I decided though that I shouldn't have to tell my mother in hopes that I would even get a smidge of support, even if it was as much as her saying, I love you no matter what. But no, I don't get that. Instead, she says to me, if you're going through with it, sign your rights of your child over to me. And I immediately tell her no. She will not be getting my child after all the nightmares she put me through. She then began to give me this whole woe is me speech. She tells me, I choose not to date because I put you guys first, as if putting what has been causing me constant mental stress first isn't also me putting my daughter first. Now, of course I'm going to put my daughter first, but my end goal is to become my best self to improve my mental health. It's something that's been causing me to be depressed and very stressed out because I feel like I'm keeping up appearances instead of being myself. I tell her this and she says, you're not a man, you're not transgender. her. This has nothing to do with mental health. She tells me to wait till my daughter turns 18, which, knowing how I was when I became an adult and tried to go off on my own, will only cause my daughter more stress. I want to work through this before she turns into an adult. That way, it's a normal thing for her before she becomes an adult. Overall, I feel majorly disrespected, and I ended up actually crying over this because I've been overly stressed out due to financial reasons as of late. I honestly just really need to get this off my chest before I end up having my third panic attack this month due to stress. My brain overall just feels so scrambled, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your mom sounds absolutely awful for the things that she's saying to you. The fact that she wants to take away your kids all because you're coming out as transgender and that you want to try and transition in your life is absolutely insane to me. Like, trust me, if I was in your shoes, that would be the first and last time she would ever talk to me like that about my kid. Because what she said is completely inappropriate. That is such a disgusting way to treat somebody, especially when they're being vulnerable and talking about something that is really delicate. And this situation is just that. It's very delicate and very sensitive. I don't think there's any reason why you can't transition and still raise your kid right. Like, I don't think for a second that's gonna stop you from being a good parent, and based on the way you've described your mom, I think you're guaranteed to be a much better parent than anything your mom could give you. And just imagine if you did sign over your kid over to your mom. I can imagine she would only perpetuate the same stuff that she did to you when you were growing up. Her entire argument and anything she has to say is so ridiculous because there's plenty of people who are transgender who are able to raise their kids just fine, and there's literally no issue. So truly, I wish you the best of luck in all of this because the way your mom is treating you right now is completely unacceptable. And I don't blame you for being distant from her in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A group of customers take the merchant receipt with them after I serve them on a check of $160. But after spending the day worried that I wasn't going to get a tip for that service, my manager came in clutch and helped me figure out exactly what I needed to do. Here's what happened. So I work at a restaurant that's inside of a casino and a hotel. This past week has been rough and very frustrating for everybody. Lots of needy guests that run you ragged for low tips, rushes near the end of my shift before second shift arrives, as well as being stuck an hour plus after my scheduled timeout to do side work. The day before this incident took place, I worked a 12-hour shift to help cover somebody calling off. Then I was back at work at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day when this took place. My first table was initially going to be a 6-top, which is great because we put 20% auto gratuity on them, but only 5 of them showed up, so I didn't get auto gratuity. Service went very well, and the table was full of friendly people. I had a feeling this table would be a good start to my day and hopefully turn around this frustrating week. They had run up a $160 check, which is high for breakfast, so I was excited. The grandfather of the group asked for the check, I run his card, and I dropped the check off. I wished them well and I sent them on their way. A few minutes later, I see them walk out of the restaurant, but I'm mid-delivering drinks and I just got sat. Within about 3 minutes, I'm able to go to the table and pick up the signed receipt, but it is nowhere to be found. The check presenter is sitting there with a customer copy and there is no cash on the table. Being 99% sure the grandfather accidentally took the signed copy, I immediately full-on sprint out of the restaurant and book it to the elevator downstairs. But I couldn't find them in the lobby or down the hall right away, so I had to go back. At this point, tears are welling up and I'm doing my best to hold it together until I get to the back of house. When I finally get in the back, all of the BS from this week hit me and that receipt was my final straw. I was very visibly upset and my amazing coworkers came to help me right away. The other server gave me a hug and checked on my tables. I went to the bathroom to splash some water on my face and gather myself. I was better after about 5 minutes, but still very upset that I lost out on probably $30 because of something so stupid and that my day had such a sour start again. I continued about my day, although frustrated and somewhat frazzled. A few hours later, near the end of the chaos, one of the food and beverage managers is making rounds on the venues and stops in to check on mine. I tell him what happened and he asked to see the check. I still had the check presenter saved sitting near the point of sale, exactly how it was on the table. He moves the check side to side in the light and saw the pen impressions of the tip and signature. He told me it's good enough for me to get the tip and that they left me $40. And when he did that, I was so happy. I literally started crying tears of joy. I was very thankful for my manager and my coworkers because without them, I honestly would not have been able to make it through that day. Wow, that's seriously a crazy situation. First of all, anybody anybody who thinks the server in this story is overreacting over what, $40 has clearly never worked as a server for a living. Like, those tips make or break what your paycheck's gonna be. At least that's relevant in the United States. So when the customer doesn't tip the server, that is honestly devastating. Like, that really would ruin my day because it would set me back a lot of money. And personally, I feel like servers need to make a lot more base money as it is, and they should not solely rely on tips in the slightest, but that's just my opinion. But overall, I'm glad the original poster was able to get some kind of tip out of this mistake, because if you seriously missed out on the tip they were trying to give you, that really would have been unfair and absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend that I don't like waking up early to drive her to work? Because right now she seems very upset with me, and right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So every Sunday I wake up at around 5 o'clock in the morning so that I can drive my girlfriend to work. This most recent Sunday I was being super slow about it, and I stayed in bed until 6 in the morning, meaning I couldn't cook breakfast in time and that she ended up cooking. After waking up an hour late, I was rushing through my usual morning routine and didn't give her the usual amount of attention that I do, and I told her I was rushing because I didn't want her to be late for work. She didn't like that I was rushing and only giving me quick kisses instead of long ones, and said that I looked super sleepy and that it looked like I didn't want to take her to work this morning. I responded by telling her that I hate waking up early and that I'm very far from a morning person, but I still do it because I liked having her there and spending time with her. Well, after that, she said that she would rather take an Uber to work that Sunday and go home on Saturday nights instead of spending the night because I was acting like I was being forced to take her. I still insisted I take her, and we ended up going, but she didn't speak to me that entire car ride. She's also been very distant since then, not really responding to text messages, and if she does, it'll be a short response with a period at the end of it, which I think means that she's mad at me. So was me telling her that I hate waking up early the wrong move, even though I told her it's okay because I love spending time with her? I just really don't get why she's so mad. Should I just let her spend the money on an Uber, which is like $30 to $50 instead of me driving her? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk here, because at the end of the day, you still show up every morning to drive her. Just because you don't like doing it doesn't mean you don't want to do it. And for her to be like, wow, you're not enthusiastic about waking up at 5 in the morning, I'm just gonna get an Uber. That, in my opinion, is really weird and like a complete overreaction. Because in my opinion, when you love somebody, you still want to do things for them even if you don't enjoy it. Like, I think that's completely normal and there's nothing wrong with that. And also, I don't know about you, but I'm personally not a morning person. So like, I can completely understand this guy where he's like, I don't really want to wake up early, but I would love to do it because I want to spend time with you. Like, the trade-off of spending time with the person you love far outweighs the cost of having to wake up incredibly early. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this is just a misunderstanding in some kind of way, and for the sake of both of you, I hope this all gets worked out in the end. I caught my girlfriend cheating on me after my friend got a picture of her dancing up against another guy, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start off, I want to say that I dislike talking about myself, but I guess I have to get some context. I met Anna in college. Anna is not her real name. Before that, I served 5 years as a combat engineer for the Marines, and let me just say, I did a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of stuff done to me, and that's pretty much all I want to expand on that. I got out and immediately enrolled in my local college. I was still definitely in the transition period between military and civilian life, and all of its ups and downs. Missing my boys, frustration at how regular people acted, all that stuff every veteran goes through. I was lucky and found a group that adopted me basically. Anna was one of them, and we hit it off. Eventually, we both got the courage to go out, and long story short, we started dating. We dated for 7 months, and I thought that everything was great. We went on dates, I got her gifts, and I made sure to meet her outside for class every day so I could walk her home. Well, 3 weeks ago, an old friend from the military was getting out and was driving across the country back to his home, and he would be passing through our city, so I offered for him to stay with me. We decided to go out like the old times, wandering red light districts on Liberty during deployment. And just like then, he got so drunk he wandered off and I lost him. Eventually, we found each other and got back, and the next morning my friend said he had something he needed to show me. He said he didn't remember that night, but he had pictures on his phone. Now, it was blurry because he was very drunk, and the club lights were also kind of distorting the picture, but it was a picture of Anna grinding on another guy. I was absolutely sure of it. It was taken from a club down the road from me from the bar that I originally lost my friend at. Now, I was never one to leap without looking, so I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. We're in the capital city of our state. How many women who look like her were in the city anyways? jeopardize. I went to class and afterwards I tracked down Anna's best friend. They always go out together, so if she was at the club, then the best friend would 100% be there as well. So I found her and I asked her if they went out last night. She denied it, so I said it was weird because my friend saw Anna. And then right there, the friend started stammering and saying he was mistaken. And while he was drunk enough, I mean, he very well could have been, her reaction was just so unbelievable, it sealed the deal for me. I just said to her, "Oh, okay, sure." And I walked away and continued my day as normal. Now, I doubt it's very healthy, but I can dissociate on command, and I just continue on from there. It's how I got through some of the worst times in the military, so I think I just fell back on that. You never rise to the occasion, you fall on your training. I didn't wait for Anna after class, and that was the first time since we started dating. When I got back to my house, I don't really know why, but I put on my old boots and I went running. I ran until the sun went down, and I realized I had left my phone on my bed. I get back to a million text messages and some missed calls from Anna. Her text strain was textbook stages of grief. She tried telling me it wasn't her, then berating me for not talking to her, which turns into her begging that I respond. Then her text messages started getting bad, where she admitted it was her, but nothing happened. But then she went down the list of her only dancing with this guy, to then only kissing him once, to then saying it was a one-time thing and that it meant nothing. It had to be hundreds of words of her just melting down that I wouldn't talk to her. And even if I did have my phone on me, I don't know if I would have done that in the first place. I had nothing to say to her, and the text barrage just ended up with her repeating that she was sorry, but I just texted back that it's over and then I blocked her. And once again, I fell back on my training, which basically means I just wall myself off. I'm fully aware that none of this is healthy, but stuff happens. I just continued on and ignored the friend group because the way I see it is that they're her friends before they were mine. I won't ask them to choose, so I'll just stay away, which really sucked because they were my only friends at this school. This continued for a while until yesterday, where I was cornered by the group, and they started telling me how Anna had a mental breakdown and is in a really bad place. She won't leave her room and spends all her time looking at pictures of us, saying that she loved me and the other guy meant nothing. I just stared at them blankly, and then her best friend started demanding that I go see her and that I apologize for what I'm putting her through. She said to me, "Don't you even know the nightmare she's going through right now because of you?" Let me tell you something. The amount of strength it took for me not to break my bearing and start in on all of them was astronomical. And my God, I thought they were my friends. This little cornering just shred any last care I could possibly give. So I just responded by saying, "I know, and I just don't care." And then I started walking away. One of my ex-friends tried to stop me, but stood down when I pushed him aside. I know Anna has a history of mental instability. She's had a few incidents in high school, but her doctor finally found the right cocktail to put her on, and she was a lot better. And I meant what I said when I stated that I really don't care if Anna won't leave her room. If she does something stupid, then I might care. As much as she hurt me, she is still a human, and I don't want that for anyone. But I do hope my ex-friends help her out. She needs support, and not some awful job at intimidating me just to forgive her. So I guess the advice I'm asking for is, do I really make sure that she's okay? Should I at least make sure that she's not going to do anything stupid, if you know what I mean? We won't ever have what we did again, but I don't want her doing anything dumb, and I'm willing to sacrifice my emotions for that. What should I do? Okay, first of all, the best friend of your ex-girlfriend is completely out of line, and she is insane. Is she seriously trying to imply that you did something to her? Because last I checked, this lady cheated on you, not the other way around. You've been loyal to her and you really did love her, and she went behind your back to go and dance with some other guy and start getting all lovey-dovey with him without you knowing about it. Like, that part alone completely disengages any argument she has about anything you've done to her. So on that end, I'm kind of glad that you stayed away from these friends, because they clearly were not your friends. They were only friends with Anna, and that's all they will ever be. Now, when it comes to checking in on her and making sure she doesn't do anything stupid, I don't think that's a terrible idea, but I do think you need to know that she's gonna want to try to get back with you. And it sounds like you don't want anything to do with her, and trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So I do think you could be the bigger man and check in on her, just for the sake of saying that you did check in on her. Because you are not obligated to have any kind of relationship with this woman, especially after she betrayed your trust. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe her anything. She's dealing with the consequences of her own actions. And that is literally something that she's gonna have to live with for the rest of her life. Am I the jerk for canceling our apartment signing after I found out that my boyfriend bought an expensive car? Because right now he is very upset at my decision. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My boyfriend boyfriend and I have been living together for the past 2 years. We've been living with roommates and have been looking for a place to move into for a while now. It is expensive, and I have a dog, so it's been difficult to find a landlord that would be okay with me having said dog. My friend has been moving out, and she has a dog too, and is willing to sublet for us. The landlord said they are okay with signing us if we want to stay after the 8-month sublet. It's a fairly good price near work, so I'm happy with it. We work through the credit check and we are about to sign it, but recently I discovered that my boyfriend bought another car. He already has his daily driver, but then he wants a weekend car, which I personally find ridiculous. I mean, why would anybody need 2 cars? He has a Honda Accord that is fine, and he has never complained about problems with it, but he recently said he bought another car. He isn't the best with money. He really likes to spend till the last dollar and doesn't have any savings. I've had to bail him out twice on rent. We both pay around $1,100 plus utilities, and he makes around $70,000 a year. So he should have savings, but he doesn't. He paid me back, but it was months later than we agreed on. So I wasn't really happy that he did that, but I didn't realize he bought such an expensive car. He didn't show it to me until Saturday when we picked up a Corvette. Now, I don't know what model it is, but I asked him how much the car was, and he said it wasn't my business. And I was just so mad that he bought a car that was clearly expensive. He admitted later, all because I refused to let it go, that it was $42,000 and that he had traded in the Honda. Even then, his payments are almost $800 a month. I was so mad he did that, especially because he asked me to cover part of his share of the apartment security deposit literally a week before he bought the car. I called my friend and apologized and told her I can't sign the lease, and she said she was okay with it. I had not paid the deposit yet, thankfully, and my roommate is okay with me staying, so I'm good. But my boyfriend's lease is ending, and the landlord wants him out, so he is mad at me canceling us moving in together because now he still needs to move, and will probably be paying more than if we move in together. He yelled at me for butting in on his business, saying it's not my business what he buys. I think that's fair, but he also doesn't have any money, and he bought an expensive car, so if anything goes wrong, I have to pay his share of the rent. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk in the slightest. For starters, it really sounds like your boyfriend is using you entirely. Like, he keeps asking for money, he keeps wanting you to pay for stuff, and he himself has literally no savings to his name. Like, this guy just does not sound responsible in the slightest. And he's going about all of this in the wrong way. He literally already has a car. There was no reason to trade it in just to get a brand new Corvette. And you know what? I feel like this is just going to perpetuate this same cycle he's put you in. He's going to have this $800 a month car payment, and you're going to have to pick up the rent and the utilities, all because he can't afford it. And honestly, that is not fair for you in the slightest. Like, you've planned ahead and you've made sure that you have money set aside for certain things, and you have some kind of safety net when it comes to like your money. So in my opinion, I think your boyfriend would have just done the same thing the second you move in. Like, his spending habits are not going to change just because you guys live together, by the way. If anything, I'm really convinced that it might get worse, and then you really would be stuck between a rock and a hard place. So no, of course you are not the jerk. I think what your boyfriend did is absolutely unacceptable. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would be very upset as well. An entitled Karen makes me feel bad for using food stamps, humiliating me in the grocery checkout line, as well as claiming that I'm the reason her card declined when I left. So I decided to get some revenge by telling this lady off in the parking lot and letting her know exactly how I feel, as well as how rude she actually was. And I've honestly never felt better about defending myself in the slightest. Here's what happened. So I was grocery shopping this morning as we were out of food at home, and I got my stuff that I came for, and I was in line. Everything was fine until an entitled Karen showed up right behind me. She saw my cart full of groceries, and she proceeded to give me a dirty look. So I knew it was going to take me a bit to unload my cart onto the lane. Anywho, I was in the process of checking out, and I pulled out my food stamps card. I was mid-swipe when this Karen had the audacity to say to me, "You should be ashamed of yourself for using food stamps. My money goes towards people like you who leech off the government. You are all a bunch of lazy people. If you weren't lazy, maybe you wouldn't need assistance." And when she said that, I was blown away. I turned around and said, "You know what? You should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting that. You don't know my life. As for how to read the room, you completely failed in that area. How I live my life is none of your business." She proceeded to say a lot of other stuff, and I just left. On my way out, I heard the cashier say that her card was declined and she needed another form of payment. I smiled and didn't feel bad at all. all. I was in the middle of loading my car up when this Karen yet again approached me, but this time she was loading groceries into her car. Now, it should be noted that she was on her phone yelling into it, saying something like, "The man who used food stamps should be ashamed," and my car declined because it was his fault. But I just looked at her and I said, no, it was not my fault. She then looked at me, but I just ignored her. She then looked at my car, which is a 2007 Honda, and she said to me, "You don't have money for groceries, but you can have a nice car? That doesn't make any sense." I then looked at her car, which is a nice Cadillac, and I said to her, "Well, I take care of my car, that's why it looks nice." After that, I just continued from there, and I left off from the store by basically saying, "You had no right to say the things you did towards me just because you didn't like that my cart was full and that I was using food stamps to pay. So go take your rude assumptions and shove them somewhere else. Good day to you." I then slammed the door of my car and then I left, and honestly, I don't feel bad in the slightest. Wow, that entitled Karen was completely out of line. Like seriously, food stamps and other welfare-based services are there to help people out who really need it. And I'm willing to bet that the original poster in this story is an honest person, and they're not just using the government to get food stamps in some kind of way. Like, it really does seem that they actually need this very badly, and their reasons are also incredibly private. Like, they don't have to go around and announce their story to everybody around them. They just want to get their groceries and get out of there just like anybody else. And I also just love the karma that came into play right when the original poster left the store. Like, this Karen's card declines right after this original poster leaves, and that's right after her being like, "Oh my god, my money goes towards people like you." But then her card gets declined, so it's like, well, what's your money going towards? It's clearly not on your card, lady. So honestly, to the original poster, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, but also I think you handled it incredibly well. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with the way he reacted. In my opinion, I think it's very important to stand up for yourself and defend your own name, especially against somebody who clearly just wants to put you down. Like, standing up for yourself in that way, in my opinion, does not make you a bad person, and it definitely doesn't make you rude. Because at the end of the day, this entitled Karen started all of this. And if she had just kept her mouth shut, then everybody could have walked away from this situation a little bit better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling another dad that his kids are weird because they're homeschooled? Because right now he is really upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So we had this family move across the street who coincidentally has boys the same age as mine. They're 14, 10, and 6 years old. Unfortunately, the kids are homeschooled, so my kids wouldn't be able to find them into the social fold. I arranged a play date last weekend for the 14-year-olds to hang out, and my son was clearly uncomfortable with the other kid. The other kid said he wasn't allowed to play video games or eat anything that wasn't organic. Now, I'm a pretty involved dad, but even that was odd. Basically, this kid wanted to teach my son about his trumpet and talk about Legos. It was like watching my 14-year-old try to play with a 10-year-old. After a few hours, the other kid left, and my son quickly went to his friend's house. I saw this kid's dad, and he asked me if everything was good between the boys. I said I assume so, and he said his son asked if he wanted to hang out on Super Bowl Sunday, and my son said no, as he was having friends over. He asked if he could come over, and my son said no. I asked my son, and he said the other kid was weird and made him feel uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, okay, fair enough. So I went back to the dad and asked if his kids have friends outside of the family. He asked why, and I said that they're not social. I'm not trying to be mean, but they don't know how to interact with other kids. He said they were very mature for their age, but I said, dude, you comb your 14-year-old son's hair. Like, I can't force my kid to be friends with your kid because he's so unlike other boys his age. He then said, are you saying my son is weird because he's homeschooled? And I said, yeah, I'm not a perfect dad and neither are my kids. I'm just saying that your kid is oblivious on what other kids his age like. He can hang out with my 10-year-old if he likes. He then said that I was a terrible neighbor, and I just said whatever. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yeah, you are definitely the jerk in this situation. Just because somebody's homeschooled doesn't mean that they're going to be automatically awkward. And for you to blame this kid's awkwardness on him being homeschooled is really weird. Like, I have plenty of friends who have been homeschooled and they are just as normal as anybody else. And I've also had friends who were like going to public schools themselves, and they were some of the biggest weirdos on planet Earth. Like, how you received an education is not a reflection of your personality. Like, maybe this is a case where the homeschooled kid is just kind of awkward, and that's literally all there is to it. And the fact that he plays his trumpet and plays with Legos is not that big of a deal as a 14-year-old. So yes, to the original poster, I absolutely think you're a jerk. The way you handled this was incredibly rude, and I don't blame your neighbor for getting upset. My husband doesn't want to contribute any more money to our household, choosing to instead stay home and play video games while barely making $16,000 a year. And I'm now at my wit's end and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so just to clarify, this is a throwaway account because my husband follows my main one. My husband is 30 years old and I am 31 years old, and we are hitting a rough spot right now. I make about $45,000 a year in my job and he makes about $16,000. If this was his dream job, I could totally be okay with that, but it isn't. It's just an awful job with awful pay. I hate my job and desperately want to change out of my career, but I'm currently stuck because my parents are sick and I have to stay in the area to take care of them. I live in a very rural area with very little opportunity for my degree. He does not have a college education, he doesn't really want a college education, and he has no idea what he really wants to do except play video games when he's home. I tried to ask him to contribute more in the household and he just blows up on me. He knows that I have a really good amount of money saved up from before we were married, so he says that we're fine. Once my parents are gone, I want to leave this nightmare and buy a house, and I would like a mortgage that isn't too crazy, so I want to put back as much as possible to save as much money as we can. He says that I'm too focused on money, and he gets really upset every time I ask him to look into another job that at least offers benefits so that I can maybe look for one that doesn't. He refuses and has brought up divorce many times, and I also think that the divorce comment comes from the fact that we haven't spent quality time together in literal months, if you know what I mean. I am very passionate about that, and he always did too until about 2 years ago when he got on antidepressants. He's never been physically awful to me, but he is volatile when approached with what I consider reasonable solutions to lighten my load. For example, if I ask him if he could do slightly more work around the house, it will only result in him getting angry and telling me he needs a list if he's going to do something. I mean, he will sweep and dry the dishes, but usually only once I prompt him to do it. But if I also make a list for him, he'll do all of it wrong. I'm just so tired all of the time. My job is mentally draining. Taking care of my parents is a chore, and I feel like he makes more of a mess than he helps with. He is also expensive to live with. He has no concept of a budget because we are just so much better off than so many people. And sure, that might be true, but I want security. If something happens to me, he is screwed after a year or two tops. Plus, I don't want to bring this up, but that is all my money that I saved from before, and together we have added about $20,000 since we got married about 4 years ago. I just don't know what to do. He really is wonderful to be around and treats me well 80% of the time. He makes dinner all the time, and I've never been around someone that I don't feel exhausted after being with outside of my parents. So it was incredible when I found him. He doesn't want to go to couples therapy, so I don't know how to fix this. So specifically, what can I do to make this better? Should I just continue to contribute more and let him do his own thing? Is there a way to bring it up that doesn't make it feel like he's emasculated? What should I do? Honestly, the fact that this guy brought up divorce all because you want him to do more around the house is a massive red flag in my opinion. This guy is 30 years old. $16,000 a year at 30 is not doing that well. And it really does sound like he sees your income and whatever money you've saved up as something that he can net as well. Like, this guy really does sound incredibly lazy and very rude. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel very frustrated with the way this guy is acting. He could very easily get to work and make a lot more money than that, but it sounds like he's really just kind of spoiled on what's going on in his life, and he sees your money as his money, and that is seriously not okay. So truly, with whatever you decide to do, I think it's really important for some change to happen, because honestly, at this rate, it really seems like you're going to be the one and only breadwinner of this family. My girlfriend broke up with me because she has realized that she's a lesbian, and the weirdest part about this is that this is not the first time this has happened to a former girlfriend, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been dating this girl for just about 2 months. We were head over heels in love with each other. I gave her everything I could, and she gave it right back as well. We did everything from weekly date nights to cooking meals together, and even had a few trips later in the year planned with each other that we were both super excited for. I had known that she was queer going into the relationship, and this doesn't bother me at all, as I'm already surrounded by many queer people in my life, and she had even met many of my friends and loved spending time with me and them. Well, last night while we were on the phone, I could tell something was off. She wasn't her normal peppy self and seemed like something really was bothering her. I didn't think anything was wrong, as I had been sick that day and the day before, and she had been texting me throughout to make sure I was feeling well and taking care of myself and all that other stuff. Normally when she would be upset, that, she would immediately tell me what was wrong, as she was pretty open and a very honest person. Well, finally she opened up and told me that she wasn't ready to be in a committed relationship, and she needed time alone to work on herself. I asked her if anything specific had made her feel that way, as just the day prior she was gushing to me about how much she loved me and wanted to be with me for a long time. She eventually told me that a coworker had asked her if she was sure that she wasn't a lesbian, and that question was eating away at her, and she wasn't sure if she was into men anymore, and that it was unfair to me to keep leading me on, and it was better to end the relationship early than to keep letting it drag on. Of course, this broke my heart because I was really truly happy and I was in love with her. Obviously, all of this is very fluid, and I can't be mad at her for wanting to be alone to figure things out by herself, but the sudden end of what I thought was going to be a long and happy relationship really hurts. Now, 7 months prior, my ex of 2 years had ended things with me the same way. Both of them reiterated that it was not because of me, and that I was actually the sweetest guy that both of them had ever met. A short-term fling in college had also ended the same way. So I'm just starting to wonder, has anyone else had similar experiences to this? I'm the only person in my friend circle to have had a relationship end this way. And on top of that, having multiple end this way just feels so wild to me. What should I do? So I really believe that this is just a coincidence, and I think it's really important for you to realize that this is not about you. I know you might think there's some kind of pattern here, or like maybe there is something that you're doing that you don't know about, but I really think this is just one of those situations where like lightning has struck twice, and it's not indicative of anything that you have or have not done in these relationships. And I think the best evidence of that is the fact that these girls have said, hey, you were really nice and you're awesome, and they were at least kind enough to cut things off when they did understand certain things about themselves. So I really wouldn't be too hard on yourself. This really does seem like a freak incident, and I don't think this is any reason for you to beat yourself up. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for finally making a comeback at my boyfriend's repeated jokes about my appearance? Because right now he is very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. So last night my boyfriend and I were in a playful mood and fake fighting, all while laughing. And so before bed, I came to his place so we could spend some time together, as we are both full-time university students and he works as well. So we use this time to catch up, cuddle, work on our assignments near each other, and just have dinner together and so on. Anyways, I get the giggles and I'm giddy, and my boyfriend's playing along, but asked me to get along and come with him to brush his teeth, as well as get ready for bed. We were both enjoying each other as far as I could tell, and I make jokes and follow him whilst continuing to be a bit silly and giggly. We get into it playfully as we are brushing our teeth, and he may have joked about having to trim his beard, so I grabbed his face. I wouldn't say it was too hard at all, because I meant to pat his overgrown beard, and did so while we both laughed it off. Well, apparently it was a bit too excited to grab, because his first instinct was to grunt and squeal and slap one side of my face a bit too hard, but didn't explain, but was kind of frustrated. And this is also important because this man has a temper. Now, I was visibly shocked, and I smiled and said, I don't reckon it was that hard. He suggested that it was, and I said if it was, I didn't mean it like that. Granted, I was giddy, and I could have been more aggressive than intended, but he could just say so next time. I was distraught, but the atmosphere was still light. He responds by flicking his wet toothbrush at me and spraying me with a splash of water, and at this point, I'm appalled. But we joke about it, and I ask him to step away from me so I can wash my face first. He doesn't apologize, but it all ends fine, and we head to bed. So sure, maybe I was being a little bit too giggly and overreacted with the face grab thing, which is fine, but that's at least one argument that I can avoid. We head to bed, and my giggle was clearly contagious. I'm scrolling on my phone, waiting for him to head to bed, and he's making all these jokes back and forth. I'm a bit on guard from the situation, but I just want some alone time on my phone before bed. Then my boyfriend makes a comment that's been on repeat about me having a mustache, and that is a touchy subject for a female. I have asked him repeatedly to stop teasing me, and if it is a real concern, to please just tell me, as no lady wants to run around with a stash that she very clearly doesn't want there. Obviously, he ignores me and keeps bringing it up in banter and assuring me that I do not actually have a mustache, but has never respected my request to stop teasing me and bringing it up in banter or even half-serious banter. Needless to say, it definitely struck a chord, and it ruffled a feather or two as he cracked himself up as I sat there with my mouth open. So at this point, I'm annoyed, and I have to say something. Now, I know it's a touchy subject for men and not something to joke about, but my boyfriend crossed a line. So I said to him, well, if nothing's off limits for you, then nothing's off limits. And then I made a comment about his performance performance in certain aspects of our lives, if you know what I mean. Well, when I said that, he immediately turned on his side away from me and wouldn't talk to me, except to snap at a reel accidentally going off, and would not let me hug him when I finally went to sleep. He physically and aggressively pushed my arm away and off of him. He is much stronger than I am, and when he makes me upset, he usually pulls me in for a cuddle against my will, even if I asked him not to and I try to pull away. Well, fast forward, and he left this morning before I woke up, and I have not heard from him all day. I do regret the comment, but I am reluctant to reach out because I don't want him to think that what he said was okay. So how long can he keep ignoring and disrespecting me while acting like every time he makes a comment about my physical appearance, it is somehow the funniest comment he could ever make? I'm not trying to justify my comment, and I don't want him to think that only he has the right to say whatever he wants about me, or even about my appearance, even after asking him not to on multiple occasions. I also don't mean to come off as incredibly revengeful, but I was just sick and tired of this specific comment especially. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? This is a classic case of you can dish it, but you cannot take it. This guy's making fun of you about something that you do not like, and when you turn the tables, oh, suddenly you crossed a line. But it's like, oh, okay, but what about the fact that you're saying she's got a mustache? Like, I'm pretty sure that crossed a line like several moments back. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I think that your boyfriend got a serious taste of his own medicine, and if he's offended by that, then maybe he knows just a little bit about the way you feel. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law that I make way too much money at my job to suddenly quit it just to become a stay-at-home mom? Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm a 31-year-old female, and I am a manager for cybersecurity engineering for a big tech company. My husband is an internal medicine specialist, and I make over $200,000 a year, and he recently started making his full salary at around $400,000 a year. We had our first child around 2 years ago, and I'm pregnant with our second. My family is pretty open-minded about it, but my husband's family are very old-fashioned, and since we are Japanese, there is a consensus from them that women who are married with children should not be working. My husband is very lucky as he has less loans than other doctors, just over $130,000, but that's because his family paid a lot of it off already. So I've been getting hints from them that I should be a stay-at-home mom and leave the money making to my husband. I don't want to leave my job, and my company is relatively understanding. I got 6 months off of work for my first child and was able to keep my current position. The male members of my team are also able to take paternity leave, so I don't see why I would have to leave my job. I also paid most of the bills while my husband wasn't making much as a resident. My aunt was a stay-at-home mom, and to make more income in her retirement, she babysits my son. She's also going to be looking after my youngest child when my maternity leave ends. I've also been guilted by other moms, especially my husband's coworkers' wives, since most of them who are also not doctors become stay-at-home moms. But I don't see why I need to. My husband and I outsource all of our cleaning, our grocery delivery, our lawn maintenance, so honestly, all we do is cook. Almost all of our time at home is spending time together as a family, and apart from the rare occasion we both work 9 to 10 hours a day, with me working a bit less as I don't have to commute. Even then, we still have a lot more than if I were a stay-at-home mom. But my mother-in-law has commented how it's not right that I outsource these things because a mother shows her love by cleaning after her kids and her husband. My mother-in-law recently came over, and while eating dinner, she said the food was great and complimented me, and I said that my husband made the food. And when I said that, she was shocked. She said it wasn't right that my husband had to do any work after his long shift. I then got annoyed and said that I was working longer than him today, and she said, well then you should just quit so you don't have to. I then got mad, and I told her I save over $12,000 a month after paying to outsource, so I didn't have any interest in doing it anyways. And with that money, we can send our children to top schools and have undergrad and possible graduate school paid for. So it's ridiculous to expect me to quit just because she has an old-fashioned idea that women need to be on their knees scrubbing away. My mother-in-law was offended, but my husband told her it's already been settled and I'm going to still be working. But everybody always tells me that I'm a bad mom if I don't quit my job, and it all has me really worn down at this point. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. Your mother-in-law's just a busybody. She thinks that just because she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom somehow means that you automatically have to do that yourself. And if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't want to quit either. You have a very successful job, you earn a lot of money, as does your husband, and you're clearly doing really well figuring things out between the two of you. So like, why would you quit? Just so you can stay at home and not work that high-paying job? It's not like you're not taking care of your family. You clearly have it worked out between you and your husband. And honestly, that's like the only person who has a say in anything that happens in that house. So no, of course you're not a jerk. Your mother-in-law's being really weird, and if I was in your shoes, I would just try to ignore her. My entitled mother-in-law steals my entire collection of vintage keys, selling it at a pawn shop just so she can buy herself a new phone. Things got so bad that the police got involved and my mother-in-law eventually got arrested. And now, as a result, my wife is walking out of our house claiming that I had no right to have her mother arrested. And I'm honestly at the point where I'm considering a divorce, leaving me completely unsure of what to do next. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother-in-law is insanely entitled, and my wife's enabling of her has made our marriage very hard at times. My mother-in-law has come to us for money a lot because she keeps spending herself into a hole since she is a hoarder and a shopaholic. Her house is full of garbage, junk, and unopened stuff that she never uses. The house is rodent infested too, and she has one semi-clean room in the whole building, with that room being the master bedroom. She's mocked it up like a little studio apartment with a futon to sleep on and use as a couch, an entertainment center with a TV and streaming, and a makeshift kitchen consisting of the adjoining bathroom, a mini fridge, and a microwave. My mother-in-law is also overweight because she eats out a lot. So anyways, recently my mother-in-law came to us wanting me specifically to buy her a new smartphone as an unprompted gift, and she threw a fit when I refused. And I mean like a child temper tantrum kind of fit. Now, why did she want a new phone so suddenly? Hers was 2 years old. That is literally it. As far as I know, it still worked fine. Even my wife has confirmed this, but my mother-in-law was resolute that she deserved a new phone. And before leaving, my mother-in-law yelled at us that we're supposed to be pampering her now that she's an old woman, but she's only 53. My wife also didn't want to buy her mother the phone because she gave her money not long before to make sure her bills were paid. I have quite a collection of vintage skeleton keys, and I mean these are really good ones, like ones that go to very specific hotels, the large ornate sergeants, brass railroad keys, reading hardware, etc. My collection as a whole should easily be worth $2,000 to $3,000. Some of those keys are super rare, and I keep them in a locked display cabinet. But a few days ago, I came home to find my entire collection was gone. The cabinet had been forced open, and when I checked our CCTV for the living room, I saw my mother-in-law force open the cabinet with a small crowbar. And when I saw that, I seriously thought I was gonna lose my mind. After she forced open the cabinet, she then put all the keys in a couple of boxes that she brought with her, and then left right away with them. I called my mother-in-law right away and demanded that she return my collection. Well, she nonchalantly told me that she sold the entire collection at a pawn shop already, and she used the money for her new phone. Then she said it was my fault, and she just had to do it because I wouldn't give her the money. My wife was seemingly on my side, all the way up until I said I was going to call the police. She begged me to just drop it, and even suggested that I just start a new collection, but I refused to let it go, because a lot of those keys are not only expensive, they're also irreplaceable. I spent 10 years building that collection, but my wife kept blowing up on me and telling me to just let it go. So I slept in the guest bedroom that night and sought online help the next day when my best friend told me to try the internet. I had been lurking on some message boards before, but making an account was just honestly too hard. My mother-in-law has been trouble in the past, but this is the first time that I know of that she'd stolen from us. I needed help, so I asked online. The resounding advice finally made me pull my head out of my you-know-what to realize that I was the only one keeping my marriage afloat, and it would likely never get any better if my wife wasn't on my side when her own mother steals something irreplaceable to me. Now, to answer some quick questions that I've got, honestly, first of all, how did my mother-in-law get into the house? Well, my wife unilaterally gave her a key when we moved in. Secondly, why did I have CCTV cameras in the living room? But like seriously, I had to do that. Why wouldn't you do that if you had something valuable on display there? Now, my mother-in-law was not on any kind of illegal substance or anything like that. She's just always been this crazy. I'm also checking to see if she's been stealing from us and we just haven't noticed. And trust me, I've checked everywhere that I can think of. And the thing is, I don't even know what phone she got. But knowing her, it was probably one of the cheaper smartphones with the amount of money that she got selling my stuff. Now, here's another question that I needed to figure out. Did my wife use my money to placate her mother before? And the answer is yes, she absolutely did. We primarily have separate accounts, but we do have a joint account that we pay bills with, so it's not used for savings. In 2 years of marriage, I'd say it happened roughly 5 times. Every time my wife took money from the joint account for her mother, she always replaced it on her next payday. Though in hindsight, I think she only did so because she knew I'd never let it go, because she would always have an attitude with me for a few days afterwards. I was in a bad marriage fog before, but this whole situation has snapped me right out of it. The next question I have is, will I lock down my credit? But trust me, I've already done that. Though I'm not sure my wife or her mother would be so stupid as to do something like that after my mother-in-law was recently arrested. Now, I have gotten my collection back, and I have it hidden in a place where my wife and my mother-in-law have no idea where it is. And with all things considered, this honestly is such a big mess. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has more additions to the story. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so back to what happened that day. The police did come along and take my statement a bit over an hour after I called the non-emergency line. I had video footage and the documentation of my collection ready, and then there were some text messages I went out of my way to get from my mother-in-law just to bait her into a confession. I wanted as much evidence as possible so she couldn't lie to the police. When I texted her back demanding that she get my collection back, she actually laughed and told me not a chance. And she even boasted that she thought I was a pathetic son-in-law, and my key collection was tacky anyways. I told her to at least tell me what pawn shop she sold the keys to so I could buy them back myself, and how much they paid her for my collection. And the dimwit admitted it all right away with glee in the text message. So I had everything I needed for the police before they even showed up. The cops took the whole matter more seriously than I thought. I was worried they'd call it a civil matter since the theft was my mother-in-law and she had the key to the house. But they arrested my mother-in-law before long, and police went to the pawn shop before it closed to retrieve my collection. I got it all back from the police after a couple of days, and for the moment, I've put the collection in a safe place like I mentioned, which is somewhere where no one can find it. The pawn shop pretty much gave up the entire key collection to the police right away, almost as if it was a hot bag of potatoes. Though I scrutinized every important key brought back, and as far as I can tell, it's all there. So there was a huge sigh of relief. I took time off work and barely slept for 2 days because of this ordeal. Also, the cabinet that my mother-in-law broke into is pretty much a loss since she mangled the lock and doors prying it open. Thankfully, it wasn't an antique and just something I got for about $50, so I'm just going to take it to the dump sooner or later. From her text messages before, I found out my mother-in-law sold the whole collection to the pawn shop for a whopping total of $300. And this is for a collection of hundreds of antique keys, valued at $2 to $3 grand as a total. I mean, that low number felt like a punch in the gut to me. Likely, the pawnbroker knew how valuable the collection could be as a whole. I mean, it's not like hitting the jackpot or anything like that, but money is still money, especially when a dumb lady walks in with a box of goodies. Anyone else hear Mr. Krabs laughing in the background? Because I certainly do. Anyways, the cost of repayment to the shop was supposed to be on my mother-in-law, but my wife paid them back out of our joint account instead. From what the shop owner said, my mother-in-law told them the key collection belonged to her deceased husband, and she was sick of the whole collection sitting in storage, so they just believed her. But just to be clear, she is not a widow. Her husband divorced her and left the state about 15 years ago. My mother-in-law lives on Social Security and food stamps. She also holds garage sales every few months, and she often demanded our soda and beer cans so that she can get the deposit money recycling them. She doesn't drive and gets around on an electric scooter that tows a bicycle trailer. She lives in a long paid-off house, and she would not be having money troubles if she wasn't overspending every single month. And she always counts on my wife to pick up the slack when she comes up short. My wife and I got into a fight when she got home because I had her mother arrested, but I told her I'm done with her enabling her toxic mom. I said I was changing the locks as soon as possible, and I'm banning her mother from the house. I also said that either we get marriage counseling or I would be inquiring about my options for separation from an attorney. Now, I thought my wife would beg me not to do that, but instead she called me horrible, packed up a suitcase, and walked out to go to a motel. And you know what? I just sat on the couch and I let her go. She repeatedly looked like she was waiting for me to ask her to stay, but I didn't. In the morning, she texted me that she would be bailing her mother out and wanted me to transfer her the money to pay for it since I was the one who got her mother arrested. When I said no, all I got back was a sarcastic message that said, "Wow," and that was it. Not long after, I had a gut feeling and I checked the balance on the shared bank account, and my wife had taken out a lot of money. I wasn't sure if all that was needed for bail, so I called the pawn shop later. The owner confirmed my wife had come in and paid him back the $300 that he'd paid her mother for the keys. He was also quite angry and said he didn't want any of us in his shop ever again. And you know what? I understand his anger. And weirdly weirdly enough, I had a fairly long talk with this guy, and he understands now that I'm not part of the crazy. I tried to call and text my wife for hours, but she didn't answer. That evening, I managed to find her. I knew which motel she would likely go to, and I was right. It was both cheap and not very far away. I found her car and then figured out which room she was in. She looked positively shocked to see me when she opened the door. I confronted her about the money she'd used for our shared bank account, and she basically said that since I refused to pay her mother's bail after I was the one who had her arrested, she got the money from me another way. Then she smugly stated she wasn't paying that money back into the shared account this time and told me that's the karma I get, all before shutting the door in my face. She then said through the door that she would call the police on me if I didn't leave. The smug look she'd given me reminded me of nasty teenage girls when they get their way, and it really ticked me off. I already knew my marriage was pretty much over, but that night it really sank in. I had a long sit down with some old video games and some soda just to think about my future. The house is rented, so I'm not renewing my half of the lease, and soon I'm gonna be apartment hunting. The last month of the lease is March, but I may even leave sooner, depending on how soon I can find an apartment. We have no kids yet, thank God, so that's another thing I currently have in my favor. The next day, I changed the locks on the house, and I removed all my money from the joint bank account, and I stopped all automatic payments to and from it. I made sure to take only the amount of money that I put into the account. There was still more than enough in it for me to break even and still leave the minimum required balance on the account. Either way, the cost of my mother-in-law's bail and paying back the pawn shop was now entirely out of my wife's pocket now. And I don't think she's noticed yet, but it shouldn't be long. I've been to a couple different divorce lawyers already, and I picked the second one since the first one seemed like they were only there for a paycheck. I'll have the divorce papers served very soon. I love my wife, but it's clear that she didn't love me, so I can't stay with her anymore. She can have her thieving hoarder mommy all to herself now. We both have very comparable incomes, so I'll be pushing for a clean split divorce. This woman didn't deserve me, and I fell for her act. She didn't want a husband, she wanted an insurance plan. And I just want to be clear on this, I won't be changing my mind about divorce. My soon-to-be ex-wife can beg and love bomb me as much as she wants. That is, if she even bothers to do that. I've never been her number one, and I am not gonna settle for being number two in my own marriage. Wow, what a crazy turn of events. First of all, the mother-in-law is crazy for breaking into your stuff to steal your collection. Like, that is insane to me, and if anything, you're probably patting yourself on the back for making sure you had cameras set up. I mean, just imagine if you didn't have cameras, and this mother-in-law steals your stuff and you have no proof. You literally have no evidence. Like, that would be a nightmare to deal with, because you literally would have lost your stuff with no evidence. I can't imagine going through what you're going through, as well as the way your wife is also treating you. Like, the way her mom is acting is not defendable. The fact that she's trying to be like, wow, you put her in jail, how could you do that? All while she's just ignoring the fact that she robbed you guys blind. Like, I'm sure she would be singing a much different tune if this mother-in-law stole something from her instead of you. Like, this whole scenario is messed up, and I'm so sorry that it's gotten to this point, but it sounds like you have a solid game plan. And for the sake of your happiness and your future, I hope it all works out in the end. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My wife has been cheating on me since she was pregnant, and I only found out because I went through her phone while she was in surgery, and now I'm at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so as the title says, I found out my wife started cheating while she was pregnant. She stopped cheating on me after we had the baby and started cheating again after the baby was 14 months old. She was turned off by me because she had to work while she was pregnant with our son. My wife is not very work motivated. She actually hates working and always wanted to be a housewife even before we had kids. But this just isn't ideal as we live in an expensive town. I have been suspicious of my wife because she is really secretive on her phone. I went through her phone 4 days ago while she was under surgery. I had a good 3 hours to go through everything, and she tried deleting a lot of things, and I found out that she's been cheating on me with several different men. She vented to her friends a lot about her feelings, like how she's married to a woman because I can't provide her with everything she wants, and she started to resent me when she told me she wanted to quit her job when she was pregnant and wanted to be a housewife while she was pregnant. She told her friends that she cheated on me. She vented to them about the affairs, and she told them that I'm not a real man because I make her work, and she's turned off how I'm not traditional in the financial sense, and how she looks at me like a feminine boy. Her Her friends were supportive and listened to her because they were friends since middle school and high school. Now, I know everyone's going to ask how she did find the time to cheat, but as a quick background, we are Asian, and that means we get a lot of family support. Our families are always active and there for us no matter how old we are. We don't use daycare services since our parents are the daycare. Our parents are retired and happily take care of our son. We have a lot of free time with all the family help that we get, but the downside is because of our cultural background, this is the reason why we can't get a divorce. It is highly frowned upon in the community, and literally nobody in the family has ever had a divorce, and it would be embarrassing for my entire family if I started. I confronted my wife about this the next day because she was in surgery the first day, and the pain medicine was making her tired and sleepy, and she wouldn't be able to hold a conversation. It was hard not talking about it right away, but I knew it wasn't going to do any better. Anyway, she said I was wrong for going through her phone, and me going through her phone is worse than what she did, because as a man, I should have been providing for her, because she wanted a housewife lifestyle. She said going through someone's phone is a major invasion of privacy, and nobody has the right to ever go through someone else's phone, especially without some kind of permission. And then she got even more hostile, and started questioning me if I messaged anybody on her phone pretending to be her, and then deleted the evidence about it. This is all just so devastating, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. That is seriously awful, and I cannot believe she's acting that way. Is she really trying to act like her cheating on you is just as bad as you going through her phone? Like, that is crazy to me. There's no way that's even comparable. She was unfaithful in her marriage. You going through her phone is not even close to being the same. It's also really convenient what she said at the end, where she's like, oh wait, maybe you messaged somebody pretending to be me. Because I guarantee you, if you do go through with getting a divorce in some kind of way, or if you even try to expose her to everybody else around you, she's gonna use that excuse. She's gonna lie and try and turn it on its head towards you. And that is all completely insane in my opinion. So honestly, with whatever you do decide to do, I honestly wish you the best, because what you're going through is completely and utterly unfair. Am I the jerk for being unapologetic about faking being sick for my dad's wedding? Because right now, my dad and his wife are very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so as the title suggests, the wedding happened years ago, but my faking sick became more widely known last week. My grandma was the only person who knew the truth. She's my dad's mom and was the person who stayed with me during the wedding while everyone else went. The reason I faked being sick was I was sad and I wasn't okay with the wedding, but my dad and Kim, who is his wife, wanted me to get on board and find a way to celebrate their joy. I was 9 and my mom had been dead for about 3 years, and I still wasn't feeling great about Kim being here. And I still don't, even to this day, if I'm being honest. My grandma had been really close to my mom as well, and she felt an obligation to be there for me. She didn't scold me or get mad when I told her I was faking it. She had suspected anyways, because she was aware I was struggling with dad getting married again. She also knew I wasn't Kim's biggest fan. For those wondering what I had against Kim, some of it was that she just wasn't a mom and felt like she was taking my mom's place. But she was also pushy and insisted I be her junior bridesmaid and walk her down the aisle at the wedding. She would say things like it was the perfect way to start our mother-daughter relationship, and she also told me it would stop me living in the past because she knew I was upset about my mom more around their wedding. She also overwhelmed me in the months leading up to the wedding by talking about her and dad having kids and how I needed to think of names for future siblings because she wanted to say that I named them, and she wouldn't let up the topic once she realized I wasn't enthusiastic about it. Anyways, my not being at the wedding was always a sore spot for my dad and Kim. My grandma and Kim also had a rivalry post-wedding. Grandma was one of the most important female figures with mom gone, and Kim wanted that to be her. She was jealous of grandma, and grandma just didn't like Kim trying to force things. They bickered a lot over the years about it because Kim would say grandma wasn't important at all. Last week, things took a turn, and Kim told grandma that she was my favorite woman in the world, and I liked her more than anyone, including grandma and including my mom. Grandma laughed at her, and Kim said that she was the primary mother figure of the whole family. Kim lied and told grandma that I tell her everything, and that grandma was the most unimportant person in my life. Grandma then rubbed it in Kim's face that I faked being sick for the wedding. Now, grandma regretted it once she let that slip, and she's been working on making it up to me. But I forgive her because she was the only adult I could talk to. Now, dad and Kim were mad when they heard about what I had done, and they expected me to be apologetic, but I wasn't. My dad asked if I realized how much I had hurt him, and I said yeah, but he didn't care too much about my feelings about it either. Kim said I really hurt her because she did her best to be a loving and welcoming stepmom, and I rejected her so hard that I wouldn't even go to the wedding, and 8 years on still show no regret about it. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You were 9 years old at the time. You were still grieving the loss of your mom, and Kim and your dad were overwhelming you. I don't think they should be holding such a weird precedent set against you, especially when they've done nothing to make that relationship any better. It is so strange to me that they would be holding that against a child. Like, there's no good excuse for that in my opinion, and honestly, that makes them the bad guys in this scenario. So no, you are not the jerk. If I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing, because this entire scenario is very much skewed against you, and you were definitely forced into something that you were not comfortable with in the slightest. My entitled sister-in-law decides not to invite me specifically to her wedding, as she claims that I'm an unpleasant person to be around and that I'm just a spoiled brat, as well as the reason for all of my sister-in-law's problems in her life. But after my husband and the rest of my extended family found out about this situation, they all decided not to come to the wedding either. And now my sister-in-law is blaming all of this on me. And at this point, I am so blown away by her entitlement for her to blame me for something that I didn't even do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 3 kids. Our oldest one is 7 years old, then we have a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old baby. And my husband's sister is the one getting married. Our relationship with her isn't so great. She is always making unnecessary comments, and I know that she dislikes me a lot. She didn't like me from the first time my then boyfriend introduced us together, and then when I got pregnant, I was still in school and my boyfriend had just started college. He ended up dropping out, and we needed a lot of support from our families to settle down back then. So my sister-in-law thinks that I messed up her brother's life and her family's life because I didn't get rid of my baby at the time, if you know what I mean. She has always been rather hostile. We mostly only see her at family gatherings, and she doesn't visit or anything like that, and honestly, that's probably for the best. She has caused problems before because she says that my husband was the golden child and she was the scapegoat. And then when I got pregnant, their parents basically adopted me and spoiled me because I was with my husband. So with that background in mind, here's what's happening. She recently sent out invitations for her wedding. She sent my husband his invitation, which had his name and our 3 kids' names, but it did not include mine. My husband asked her about this, and she said that I'm not a pleasant person to be around, so I'm not going to be invited. He told her that is extremely disrespectful since I'm his wife, and they argued a bit about it through text messaging, with my husband eventually telling her to not count on him or the kids being there because they are absolutely not going. She then blamed it on my husband being immature, and my in-laws tried to mediate between them, but she replied to them saying that she's not surprised they're taking our side. They got into an argument, and my in-laws said that since she's having this attitude, they're not showing up to the wedding either. Well, as you might guess, immediately afterwards, she started blaming me. She said that this is all my fault because I could have just accepted that I'm not invited and allow my husband and children to exist without me for a couple of hours. She also called me stupid and uneducated, as well as spoiled, and that I have princess syndrome. I told this to my husband and his parents, and they told some other family members, and now apparently a lot of them canceled their assistance as well. And throughout all of this, she just keeps blaming all of it on me. And sure, I didn't tell my husband to go, I will admit that, so I think that's why I'm possibly a jerk here, because I could have prevented such a big drama, but I decided not to. But also, I think she's a bigger jerk in general. And in this case, she definitely might be the jerk for expecting my husband to be okay with leaving me behind. So honestly, I need to know, am I somehow the jerk and the person to blame for all of this going wrong for my sister-in-law? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your sister-in-law sounds absolutely obnoxious. First of all, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your sister-in-law didn't invite you on purpose, and she was somehow expecting you to just be okay with it? Like seriously, what was she thinking? Did she really think that your husband was gonna be like, oh, that's okay, I'll just go without you? Like there's clearly been like this long history of animosity from this sister-in-law, and she's always been this massive thorn in your side, even at family gatherings and other events, and she's constantly been blaming you for all kinds of like problems in her life. So the fact that this blew up in her face, and then she turned around and tried to blame it on you after you just didn't do anything about it, in my opinion, is showing her true colors. Everybody is seeing on full display exactly how she is. And that is no fault of your own. You didn't do anything. And it's also super insulting because this wasn't up to you to say anything about it. Like she made made the decision of not inviting you. And she did that almost under the assumption that you would make sure that this would be okay, as if you're supposed to coordinate with her to make sure that your husband goes to this wedding. Like, I don't know about you, but if someone slaps me in the face, I'm not about to help them with anything in their life. So truly, your sister-in-law is incredibly toxic. I am so sorry that you're dealing with this, but thankfully, everybody in the family is seeing exactly how she really is. So I think, if anything, that might be the best silver lining to come out of this entire scenario. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend hasn't held a job in over 2 years, and at this point, I'm getting incredibly frustrated. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I have been dating for just over 2 years. 1 year in, we decided to move in together and signed a lease. I had concerns prior to signing because I had noticed that she tends to job hop quite a bit, but it seemed like she had a reason for leaving each job, and since she doesn't have a college degree, I assumed it wasn't such a big deal. Lower wage jobs do tend to have a lot of turnover, and I've worked them extensively myself, and they do in fact suck a lot. But it has started to become such an issue that I'm reconsidering our entire relationship, which is otherwise going really well. In the 2 years that we've been dating, she hasn't held a single job for more than 1 or 2 months at most. Most jobs she only keeps for a few weeks, and this has become weirdly obvious when 14 W-2s showed up in the mail. It's now stressing me out because she's once again getting ready to walk out on another job, and I don't have the means to provide for the both of us every single time she finds herself dissatisfied at work. I feel bad because last year I had to take a 3-month medical leave after a freak accident at my work, during which time I was unpaid because they inexplicably denied my short-term disability due to a technicality, so she was holding down the fort. Though she left her job towards the end of my intensive treatment, she did help me with a lot of financial things during that time. I went back to work part-time in the last 3 weeks of treatment, and she was unemployed through the last month of my treatment and through the holidays for almost 2 whole months. And this left me to shoulder the full cost of rent for 1 month, which she had done the months before, but I wasn't back to full-time work and I ended up accruing some debt. Whenever I bring up financial concerns, she circles back to this period and how draining it was for her to have supported me, which, to be fair, neither of us are exactly millionaires out here, and our area is very expensive. Her job hopping is to the point now where she is having difficulty getting hired in our area, and I cannot convince her that this has anything to do with the fact that she has left so many jobs and burned so many bridges that people might be aware that she's a job hopper, and that's all before she even gets in the door. She airbrushes her resume and is convinced that no one could possibly know her actual work history. Every little thing will set her off about a job and then she'll leave. She feels disrespected by a lack of response to emails, or they are being condescending in training, and then she'll walk right out over it. I feel bad because she certainly hasn't had an easy life, so it sounds super condescending when I try to tell her that every job has drawbacks, but we all have to work. I don't know how to communicate that in a way that doesn't make her feel defensive. I would otherwise call this woman the love of my life, but I don't know if I can deal with the financial stress and instability of being partnered with someone who can't and won't hold down a job. We can't budget, we can't save any money for trips, we can't work on our long-term financial goals because her pay is constantly unknown. How can I wake her up to how weird it is to bounce around like that and convince her to commit to something? Or should I take this as an exit cue? In her early 20s, she had a pretty bad injury at work, and I think she just never recovered her work ethic and feels very triggered by the work environment. I have tried to convince her to talk to someone about it, but she always pulls back and says that she can't afford it. Her job hopping has left her almost perpetually without health insurance, so we would have to pay out of pocket for any mental health stuff. I'm honestly feeling so frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Like, here you are just trying to find some kind of financial stability in your life, and your girlfriend can't hold down a job. Not because she's not qualified, but because of the fact that she just can't enjoy anything about her job. She takes everything so personally, and then she's like, okay, I quit. And that is seriously not a good way to handle any job in the slightest. Don't get me wrong, if the job sucks, then sure, you should definitely get out of there. Usually you can tell when a job environment is super toxic and this is not a place you want to work. But I would argue for the most part that most jobs, at least for the first 6 months, can at least be bearable to some degree. And of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but I would like to believe out of the 14 jobs that she applied for, there had to have been at least one that she could stick out, even just to make a paycheck paycheck and make ends meet. Because getting 14 W-2s in the mail, that honestly is insane to me. That is way too many jobs in 1 year. And she's only holding those jobs for 1 to 2 months at most. Like, eventually, people are gonna catch on in the community and in the area that you do hop out of jobs almost immediately after you get hired. And these are people who are in their 30s, by the way. The girlfriend in the story is 32 years old, and she is still job hopping. Like, that honestly is not a good sign in my opinion, and I completely understand where the original poster is coming from when they are like literally worried about this. So honestly, in my opinion, it's time for something to change. Otherwise, this is going to be a mess later on in life. Because the original poster has it right. They literally can't plan for anything financially in their future, especially if his girlfriend can't keep a job, which is in and of itself, in my opinion, incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for being irritated with my parents after they took my car out for a drive without my permission, all while I was overseas and out of town? Because right now they are completely dodging the issue, and I seriously feel like I'm being gaslit, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I was overseas last month, and I gave my parents my car and house keys in case of an emergency. They asked me if I wanted to leave my car at their house while I was away, and I said no. My reason was that I didn't want them driving my car at their leisure just because I was away from my home, and I suspected that would happen if it was parked on their property. So I left my car parked in my apartment block for the duration of my trip. Well, when I got back, I noticed that my car was very clean, which wasn't its state before my trip. I didn't think much of this until I had a light bulb moment at my parents' house and realized they must have taken it. So I asked my mom, "Mom, why is my car so clean?" She responded by saying, "Your dad wanted to be kind and cleaned your car for you while you were away. We also thought it wasn't good that your car sat in the heat all day." I responded by saying, "Did you drive it while I was away?" My mom then said, "No, Dad obviously had to fetch it, but he walked to your flat and drove it home." Now, at this point, I didn't believe them, and I made up this next part of the conversation just to call their bluff. I responded by saying, "Interesting. Well, I noticed the odometer is up about 20 kilometers since my trip." My mom and dad took a very long pause, and then my mom responded by saying, "Well, we fetched another person for dinner on the way home, but that was all." So I asked her, "So you didn't drive them home after dinner then?" My mom responded by saying, "Oh no, we did, but that was all." Now, at this point, I left the conversation and I went home. A few days later, I picked up the conversation again with my mom. I said to her, "I don't think it's right that you took my car without asking." My mom looked at me and said, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe you ever even said that. If your dad had to hear how ungrateful you are, he would be very upset." I responded by saying, "I'm not saying I don't appreciate the car wash, but generally, if you want to take my stuff, I would appreciate it if you ask me first." My mom then responded by saying, "Listen, when you were younger, you took my car too, do you remember? Why are we even having this conversation?" But I went back at her and I said, "Because it's not right to take someone else's stuff without asking." Now, at this point, my mom got very defensive. She said to me, "You know, it sounds like you're asking for petrol or something like that, and I'm sorry, but we don't do that in this family. We treat others with kindness." I said to her that I'm not asking for petrol, I'm just saying that they should not take my things without asking. My mom then gives me a bit of an attitude. She turns to my partner, laughs and says, "Okay then." Now, honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for finding this completely inappropriate? My opinion is that I'm being gaslit and I'm being lied to. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. You are not being unreasonable at all, in my opinion. You asked your parents a very simple thing. Don't take my car around without asking me first. And you know what? Sure, I'm convinced that they probably would have taken care of it and that nothing would have gone wrong, and they really did try to like make it look nice and all that, but that honestly is completely beyond the point. It doesn't matter how much they tidied up that car or how well they washed it or anything else like that. It seems like your parents are missing the point that you set a very clear boundary and you basically said, "Hey, don't take my car out," with your mom basically trying to excuse it as if them cleaning it and washing the car is somehow going to make up for them violating your boundaries. Like, it really seems like they're talking around the issue instead of landing directly on what they did. And you know what? A car is very expensive. Like, what if they got in an accident and your car got totaled? Suddenly, you can't go to work and your parents are the reason that happened. Like, I would be furious if that happened to me and I couldn't get my stuff done all because my parents ignored my demands. So honestly, the next time you go out of town or do anything else, I honestly would not leave your house keys or your car keys with your parents. Because if they're willing to go and take your car wherever they want without your permission, then in my opinion, they would absolutely try it again. Am I the jerk for using ChatGPT to tell my extended family about my wife's pregnancy? Because right now, the majority of them have found out about what I did. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've gotten myself into a bit of a ridiculous situation here, and I need some outside perspective. So I have a very complicated relationship with my family, especially on my father's side. My parents got divorced when I was a teenager due to infidelity, and since then, I've really distanced myself from my father. I also don't appreciate how he and his family make a production out of every last thing. You didn't send a birthday card to the aunt that you haven't seen in years? Well, now the entire family is messaging you on Facebook, and they're going to be berating you. They also have a tendency to make comments about my mother, which I am very quick to shut down. Anyways, my wife and I found out that she was pregnant a few months ago. I am extremely excited to become a parent, but also have some major projects at work right now that have kept me busy and exhausted. I told my mom, dad, and my brother in person about all that's going on, but this is where I might be the jerk. Obviously, it was really important to me to give my wife the support that she needs during her pregnancy, especially because my own father didn't. Between that and work, accomplishing anything except taking care of my house and wife felt incredibly exhausting. I also knew if I didn't send a personal announcement to every last relative, I would never hear the end of it. And as a side note, my dad's family is huge. There are dozens of nosy aunts that I have to deal with. So I decided to go to ChatGPT. Basically, I asked the AI to create a text message for my aunts and cousins announcing that my wife is pregnant. And this is right when everything starts to go wrong. Apparently, I wasn't as sneaky as I thought because two of my aunts compared their messages and noticed that they were similar. This led one of them, who is a teacher, to run it through an AI detector. Well, the results were pretty damaging. And now everyone on my dad's side who's young enough to understand what I did is royally pissed off at me. I basically told anyone who asked that I knew they would be offended if they didn't receive a message, and that I didn't have time to message people I haven't seen in years individually just to thank them for their involvement in my life up to this point. My wife is more amused than anything since she knows about my history with my family and probably could care less if I didn't tell all of them. And my good friend told me that I shouldn't have messaged them at all. So honestly, am I the jerk for using an AI just to message my extended family? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this first and foremost. Your extended family is so weird. Like, not only are they super reactive to everything that anybody does, and it almost seems like they're searching for something to be upset about, but they also felt the need to not only dissect exactly what you text to everybody in the family, but they also had the genuine thought to run your message through an AI detector. Like, maybe it's just me, but that is literally insane behavior. Like, who in their right mind would be like, wow, this message looks weird. Let's check and see if a computer wrote it. It's like, what is wrong with these people? They are so strange to me. So to answer your question, of course you didn't do anything wrong. These people are freaks. They're not normal. They are literally scratching and searching for drama, all in a situation where they should be congratulating you. It's like they read this message of like, oh yeah, his wife's pregnant. But what about the message itself? Did he actually send it? Is it actually a computer that did it? Like, what is wrong with these people? Like, seriously. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. I think the fact that they got upset over this is seriously the most ridiculous thing on planet Earth. Because this literally just proves how toxic these people are. And hopefully in the future, you don't have to deal with them in this capacity ever again. Am I the jerk for taking one of my husband's cheeseburgers after he gave away nearly my entire lunch to all of our kids? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have 3 sons. Last Saturday, he took them out to run errands while I stayed at home to do some housework. They went to McDonald's on the way home, and they brought food back for me. I told them to get me a 10-piece chicken nuggets meal and a medium fry, but apparently the boys were still hungry in the car after eating their meals and asked my husband if they could have some of my food. He told them they could have a couple of nuggets and a few fries, and his reasoning was that I rarely finish my whole order, which is true for the most part. I usually only eat 7 to 8 nuggets and then most of my fries. Well, they each took 2 nuggets and a few fries, which means that what was handed to me for lunch was 4 nuggets and about 1/4 of the container of fries. Now, my husband has this habit of buying himself 3 extra cheeseburgers, and it's those little thin ones when he goes to McDonald's, and he does this so that he can eat them for breakfast the next day. He puts them in the waffle iron to reheat them, and he swears that it's his favorite breakfast. Now, knowing that he had already eaten his full McDonald's lunch, and he still had those cheeseburgers, I asked him for for one so I could have a full lunch, but he said no because he needs them for breakfast. Now, here's where I might be the jerk. I went ahead and took one and ate it anyways. I was hungry and annoyed that my food was eaten, and it didn't make sense to me that he would deny me a full lunch so that he could just have breakfast. He still has 2 cheeseburgers for breakfast. He could easily have an egg with all of that or something like that if it's not enough food. Well, he got mad that I ate his cheeseburger and doesn't think it's the same thing as him letting the kids eat my food because he didn't realize they took that much, so he didn't intend on upsetting me. Whereas I knew I was upsetting him when I took the cheeseburger. He thinks that I could have just eaten leftovers or something like that, but seriously, he could do that as well. And I think he should since he gave my food away. Now, he thinks that I'm a jerk because I took his food even after he said no, but I was not even given the opportunity to say no before he let the kids take all of my food. So in my opinion, it's not a fair comparison. So truly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your husband gave away your lunch to your children and then has the audacity to get upset when you take 1 cheeseburger out of 3? Like seriously, this guy is 100% in the wrong. This is called reaping what you sow because this guy literally gave away your lunch. And sure, it's just a McDonald's lunch, but the principle still stands in my opinion. Like if your kids were still hungry, why would you sacrifice your wife's meal instead of turning back around and getting something else for them? Or at least offering to like make something when you get home at your house? It's like the way this guy wanted to solve this problem was by sacrificing your enjoyment with your lunch. And that's honestly like super bizarre to me. That doesn't make any sense, especially when he tries to act offended when you took one of his cheeseburgers. Because in my opinion, I think the original poster is completely justified here. If he's gonna give away your food, then you have every right to take something from him. And it's not like you took that much, by the way. This guy very easily could still eat 2 of those cheeseburgers in the morning as well as an egg like you suggested. Like this is such a weird thing to suddenly be upset about and offended over, especially when this guy started this whole incident in the first place. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your husband is just salty that he got a taste of his own medicine. And in my opinion, if he didn't want to be upset about you taking one of his cheeseburgers, then he maybe should have ensured that you actually got your lunch instead of allowing his kids to basically eat it all. My toxic ex-boyfriend treated me like garbage and told me that nobody would ever believe me when I explained what he did to me. But after he gave me an open, cocky invitation to try and expose him to the world, I decided to get revenge and do exactly that. And as a result, I have completely tanked his career and his home life and prevented him from getting countless jobs after I spilled the tea on literally everything he's ever done. And I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So I'm a 39-year-old female, and 8 years ago, I was dumped by my ex-boyfriend. I'm usually on good terms with my exes, but that one was a piece of work. He body shamed me, he forced me to do things that I hated, and he cheated for half a year, not wanting to break up until we go on 2 trips paid by me. He made a point of telling me in which ways his new girlfriend is better, smarter, and thinner than me. It was so bad I ended up in a mental ward. Oh, and he told me that no one would ever believe me anyways, and that nobody cares about how he treats women. So I'm free to complain about it online if I want. So eventually I got better, I calmed down, and then I started complaining. I ended up writing a "don't hire that one" post online. He has an extremely rare surname, and it's one of those that's either his or it's like a famous athlete's last name, so this honestly helped a lot. I wrote how he can't keep a job for more than half a year because he thinks he's smarter than anyone, and he argues instead of doing what needs to be done. I stated that his references are fake because these are his friends' contacts and not his employers. I also stated how he has a billion courses on his resume just to wear the reader out. For the record, his resume is literally 30 pages long. Like nobody's got time for any of that. And that he did this so that they won't catch on to how little experience he actually has. I also said that he's sure that sleeping with a business contact could be helpful for the business itself, and that women sometimes need to be beaten up to see the light. Now, all of this, by the way, is very true. I had screenshots of chats to prove it. And as far as I'm concerned, my ex-boyfriend didn't say anything about not talking about his professional life. That was absolutely not specified. Now, I am moderately popular at social media, so a month or so later, an HR director contacted me to clarify the things that I posted, because apparently he applied for a position. Well, as you can probably imagine, I saw to it and he didn't get the job. And this happened twice more. But I suppose a lot more HRs are checking social media just to read my posts silently. I check on him once every 2 years or so, and right now he has no career, no family, and his girlfriends are apparently way smarter than me, and and they run away screaming after half a year tops. So I suppose that someone did believe me after all. As for me, I am happily married to a great guy, and in my profession, I am a bit famous. So eventually, it all worked out for me in the end. Yeah, your ex-boyfriend made a calculated mistake. He didn't realize that you were going to go after his career as much as you were going to go after his personal life. Not even mentioning the receipts and screenshots that you have at your disposal. Like, this guy sounds like a piece of work. It's very clear that he's the problem in pretty much anything he does, and that he has no right treating people in the way that he does. And this situation is like beautiful karma. This is the kind of karma you dream of and you hope comes your way, because people like this absolutely deserve to have their sins literally like broadcast to the universe. So in my opinion, good for you for standing up for yourself and exposing your ex for the jerk that they are. Because in my opinion, this guy absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not taking any responsibility for the reaction my sister got when reaching out to our birth family? Because as of right now, our birth family doesn't want any contact from my sister, and she is now trying to blame me for this not working out, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister and I are both adopted and from the same birth family. We were both adopted as infants, and our birth parents asked if they would adopt me since they adopted my sister. My parents said yes, and so my sister and I were raised together by the same family. Our lives were happy though, but we did have one big difference. She always longed to meet and know about our blood family, but I never wanted that. I don't consider them my family or my parents really. To me, my family is the people that I love and the people that I grew up with. There was never the same curiosity that my sister had or the same drive to want to find them in the future. Our parents knew their names and gave us that information, but I didn't want to track them down with my sister. She did ask, but I wasn't into the idea. My sister started to search for our birth family, and she opened herself to search for any relative. She found out our birth parents were still very close to their families, and she reached out to a bunch of people about wanting to meet. They didn't respond for months, and then she was asked by our birth father and one of our birth aunts if it was the two of us searching or just her. Well, she got no reply again for several months after saying it was just her, and then, one by one, she got replies from everyone stating they were not interested and that they did not want to be contacted again. My sister tried with a few that she did not reach out to the first time, and she got the same response. After she took some time to process all of this, she then started to blame me for their rejection. She said the fact that they asked about me showed that they wanted the both of us, and they were probably afraid of dividing us, so they rejected her. And she also said that I care so little about the people who brought us into the world, claiming that I don't care about the blood ties that we have out there. I told her it was not something I cared that deeply about. I told her that I was more concerned with being a good dad and partner than in finding strangers and trying to reconnect with them. I told her that our parents and her were my family. My girlfriend and my son are my family. Our grandparents and extended family are my family, and I don't need or crave anybody else. She told me I should take responsibility, but I told her it's not my job to do so. I also said they might have had other reasons, and they may have asked about me for any number of reasons. She said that I have to know that us both going might have gotten a different answer, and that haunts her. Things are very strained right now, and she seems to be hurting more because I don't take any responsibility. I have many thoughts on the rejection, and none of them involve me taking any of the blame. But with all that in mind, I do still feel really bad about my sister. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Okay, first off, I want to say that I also feel bad about your sister. She clearly has been looking forward to this her entire life, but now that she got rejected, she honestly seems really crushed. And that is seriously unfortunate, and I'm so sorry she's dealing with that. Like, I can only imagine going through that kind of like work to find these people in the first place, just to be turned down all because your brother isn't also involved in this process. But more on that point, in my opinion, it is incredibly toxic for her to turn this around and be like, wait a second, this is your fault. You need to take the blame for this not working out. But it's like, wait a second, how is this the original poster's fault? They literally decided to stay out of this situation entirely because they see these people in a much different light than your sister. It's not like you went out of your way to like sabotage this situation, because in my opinion, you've got it right. They could have turned her down for literally any reason at all. And I hardly believe that it's because you weren't there involved in this process. Like, that seems like a bit of a stretch, and it's really rude for her to make that kind of like equivalent assumption. And I totally get that she's hurting, and this is probably like a defensive reaction in some kind of way, but she is seriously focusing her anger anger and her grief about the situation at the wrong person. She really shouldn't be mad at you for not wanting to be involved in looking for these people, but instead she really should be upset that these people don't want to meet with her. Like, that's the real tragedy here, and honestly, in that regard, I really do feel bad for the sister. But in my opinion, with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk, and I don't think it's right for your sister to demand that you take the blame, because in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong. Am I the jerk for being too honest about why I will never consider my dad's wife an equal parent or even a second mom in my life? Because right now, my dad and his wife are incredibly angry with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents were 19 years old when they had me. They were together until I was about 1 year old, and then they broke up. They didn't get married, so there was no divorce or anything like that. I also have my mom's last name, and that does come up later, which is why I'm saying it here. My dad met his wife Carol, that's not her real name, when I was about 5 or 6. I met her when I was 6 years old, and she was married to him when I was 7. They also had 4 kids in 4 years, starting a few months after the wedding. And this is because Carol is older than my dad and felt her biological clock was ticking. It was all very fast for me. My relationship with Carol is not very close at all. She has made a lot of efforts to take the role of a third parent as well as a second mom, but I always keep her as just my dad's wife or as someone who's part of the wider family, but is not exactly someone important to me. Now, I have a few reasons for this. She never lets me call her Carol, and she pushed for me to say mom years ago, and we ended up both settling for ma'am since first names are a no-no. She is also very pushy with her religion and has called me disrespectful for not giving her religion a chance and not attending unless I'm forced to. I don't believe in religion, and I was mostly raised without it. My dad converted for her, but my mom said no to me doing it, and I'm honestly so glad of that. Carol also acts like we had years to get to know each other before she became my dad's wife, but in reality, it was maybe about a year. The other thing is that she hates my mom and is not afraid to voice that stuff around me. Carol hates that I have my mom's last name and not my dad's, and Carol hates the first name that my mom chose for me and has implied that she was selfish for giving it to me because it's more unique and uncommon and not a normal name. She has called my mom horrible things, such as a disgrace of a parent, as well as trailer trash, and she feels that dad should have named me as his first son. Then she also blames mom for not encouraging me to use my middle name, which my dad chose, and it's more of a name that Carol likes. She also disagreed with mom not putting me in sports when I was a lot younger, and this is because Carol is big into boys needing sports from a young age, and my mom never considered that a priority. She is just so disrespectful about my mom so often. A couple of years ago, while I was at my dad's, Carol and I were alone, and she wanted to know why I never treat her like a parent, and what she's done so wrong that I refuse to acknowledge her as any kind of mom to me. Well, I then mentioned all of the things I just listed, and how much I hate when she gets like that. I told her she can't expect to win me over when she talks all this garbage about my mom all the time and disrespects me by disrespecting my name. I told her that I would never love someone who acts that way. Well, when I said that, she was hurt. I could tell right away. But she was also angry, and so was my dad, when she told him what I said. They accused me of treating Carol with so much disrespect and harshness, and at this point, it's honestly making me question if I'm the jerk or not. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Carol is literally digging her own grave, and then she's expecting you to somehow be okay with the way she talks about your mother. Like, first of all, if she has like all those ill feelings towards your mom, then she really needs to manage how she expresses that and who she says that to in the first place. Like, it is highly inappropriate for her to say that around you. Like, you very clearly love your mom, and you probably just want everybody to get along. But here comes Carol, your stepmother, stepping in between you and literally everything that you know and love, and basically treating you like garbage. And that, in my opinion, is not fair in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I personally feel like Carol's attitude has gone unchecked for long enough, and it's such a shame that you had to be the one to tell her exactly how it is. Am I the jerk for breaking a family tradition by not giving my firstborn son the name William? Because right now, my entire family is angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my family has a tradition going back 6 generations in which the firstborn son is named William. My father and I go by our middle names to avoid confusion, whilst my grandfather is known as Bill. It's not that I don't like the tradition, it's just that my middle name James is the name I've always been known as, and I always hated being made fun of when I was younger, especially at school when a new teacher would inevitably call out my actual first name when taking the register, and all of the other kids would laugh at me for trying to explain that I didn't want to be called that. Now that I'm an adult, I know that if I wanted to, I could legally change my name, but I guess I've just gotten used to the inconvenience. And at this stage of my life, it's more of a conversation starter if anything else. I also understand that of all the things to be made fun of when younger, it's pretty low down on the list, and some people would just say that I'm being petty. Anyways, I have recently become a father to a beautiful baby boy, and to my family's shock, we have named him Ezra, which both me and my partner love a lot. We're still giving him the middle name of William, but this is not good enough for my family, who have practically not acknowledged my son's name at all. He's 3 months old now, and whenever they interact with him, he's referred to as Junior or the child. All I really want for Ezra is for him to feel like he is his own person when he grows up, to not feel like there's some kind of burden on him to live up to any expectations that we might have for him, which is something I suppose I felt somewhat in my childhood. I want him to feel comfortable knowing that any decision he makes, his mother and I will always support him, and this is what makes me stand by our decision. But I also can't help but feel guilty for breaking the tradition, and that there is now a slight rift between me and my family, especially when it comes to my dad. So am I the jerk for not naming my son William? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. You and your wife get to decide what you want to name your son, and honestly, no one else has any say in the matter. It is so disgusting and disrespectful that they would call this kid Junior or the child instead of saying, hey, your name is Ezra. And in my opinion, that is completely unacceptable. There is no good reason for them to do that, and it is incredibly petty for them to act that way. I know that if I was in your shoes, I would be shutting them down so fast it's not even funny. I wouldn't accept any other name or nickname in the slightest, and I would demand that they call my son by his actual name. Because in my opinion, traditions like this are really stupid. It puts pressure on people who never even had a say in the matter, and it basically denies anybody who has a son in the future from having any kind of say in what they want to name their son. So no, you are not the jerk. Your extended family is being really weird, and in my opinion, if they want to be around your son, then they absolutely should use his real name. My family excludes my girlfriend all the time, and it is constantly causing problems in me and my girlfriend's life. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to give you some context, my girlfriend and I have been together for a little more than a year. We see each other 4 to 5 times a week, and I currently still live with my parents to save money, but I hope to move out very soon. My twin sister is living out of town and visits about once a month, and she doesn't like my girlfriend all that much because she thinks that my girlfriend is taking too much of my time and preventing me from spending time with my sister. My family likes to plan things with me, like going to dinner or watching a movie, or whatever the case may be as a family, and when I tell my girlfriend that, she feels left out. I stick up for her when my family wants to do something, and I want to invite her, but they do not want her to be there. They just want me in attendance. My girlfriend doesn't want to be treated as an option on when she can or cannot participate in things with my family. I've tried talking with my parents to be more inclusive, but their argument is that they just want to be together as a family, and that it's nothing personal, but they feel that she is invading our family as they think that she always wants to be involved. We've had this problem for a long time now, and I don't know what to make of it or how to fix it, because I love my family and I want to spend time with them, but I feel they aren't as accepting of my girlfriend. But I also don't want to ditch my family plans as well just to spend time with my girlfriend, because I also want to spend time with my family. Where do I go from here to make all these parties happy? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I think it's really important to see that the girlfriend and the person in this story are 27 and 28 years old. And that's probably like the most jarring thing to me, in my opinion, because the way the original poster is acting is very immature. Now, this isn't meant to be a slight, but in my opinion, if you want your girlfriend to be more involved in your life and in your family's life, then you need to start being more of an advocate for her in all of these situations. Like, it really seems like you're just sitting there and saying, well, okay, my family says I can't have you over, so that's not gonna happen. By the way, I'm gonna go to this family event without you anyways, see you later. Like, no, you gotta stand up for her. You gotta say, listen, if you're not gonna allow my girlfriend to show up as well, then I have no reason to be there myself. Because from the sounds of it, they don't really have a good reason for not wanting your girlfriend there as well. And that's the thing about this situation. You are definitely not gonna make everybody happy. That is impossible, and it is just not gonna happen. So you really need to get that idea out of your head like right away, because somebody is gonna be upset. But in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be sticking up for my girlfriend and saying, listen, you need to include her or I'm not gonna show up. And if they have a negative reaction from this, then fine, they can live with that. Because I know if I was in your shoes and my girlfriend was just begging me to be involved involved with anything with my family, and my family was still shutting her out and saying, no, we don't want her there, then there is no way I would ever go to these family events, because my family clearly does not respect her or even want to get to know her. And that fact alone is more than enough for me to say that I don't want to be around them. My sister-in-law thinks that I wanted to purposefully outshine her at her wedding, and now she's sending me angry messages, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I first need to start off by saying that I really don't want you to think that I'm bragging, but I have always considered myself physically pretty, and people have always told me that. It has its perks and it has its cons. I had a hard time because of this when I was at school, because let's just say that I was a stereotypical cheerleader. My point with this is that often other people only paid attention to me because of my appearance, or they thought everything I did was against them, and this was very big amongst girls, which I think might have something to do with this as well. Now, this involved my husband's sister, who just got married last week. My husband and I got invited to the wedding, and it was at a very fancy location. It was truly a beautiful wedding, so I decided to dress up a little bit. I had a baby 3 months ago, but I wore a dress that showed off a little bit more of my chest. When her and her husband were busy catching up with friends, some family members came and complimented my outfit with the always so necessary comment about how good I look, and this is because I've lost most of my baby weight, and you just know how much people like to talk about that. Now, another major factor for this incident was all because we didn't bring our baby with us to the wedding. One of my friends was babysitting for us since she lives nearby, and my son only breastfeeds right now, so my friend had to drive him twice so that I could feed him. The first time was when they were giving speeches, so I went to my car, fed my son, and then she left, and then the second time, some people wanted to see the baby, so as we were outside, some of our family came to greet my baby. Now, the thing is that my other sister-in-law posted photos of the wedding, and she posted one of me and her while captioning it that she was with the prettiest doll, and this is because she calls me Barbie sometimes. Well, my sister-in-law thought that was very nasty, so she posted on Instagram saying that no matter what, some people always want to shine brighter than others and steal the spotlight even on special occasions. I saw that and I sent her a text message. I said to her, hey, is everything okay? Now, she didn't answer that day, but the next day she responded by saying that I can't possibly be this tone deaf and that the post was about me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then she said that because people were posting and talking about how pretty I looked at her wedding and how good I looked and how lucky my husband was, it somehow pulled attention away from her. I told her I was sorry, but I don't really see how that has anything to do with me. She then said that I'm doing this on purpose, and to back up her argument, she said that in the photo I posted, people were commenting on that kind of stuff. She insists that I wanted to outshine her by basically looking prettier and by having people look at my baby. So I think this might just be some female competition thing, because I've seen this other times. It wouldn't be weird to me if she thought that me dressing up or losing weight was something that I've done to purposefully harm her, because it has happened to me before, but I don't want to be too harsh, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt because maybe I was wrong. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? You're not the jerk. You literally did nothing wrong. You came to the wedding, you dressed up, and you had your baby with you just to feed him. Like, the fact that your sister-in-law would act this way and act so weird and competitive and petty, that in my opinion is a reflection of how toxic she truly is. And that has absolutely nothing to do with you. An entitled Karen tries to get me fired from my volunteer position after I gave him some advice for a chess game he won at a local tournament. Because right now she's claiming I'm trying to corrupt her son and that I'm gonna ruin his life if I ever help him again. And I am still astonished by this delusional Karen. Here's what happened. So I'm active in a local scholastic chess organization. We set up some formal lessons, provide a place for kids to play or study chess in a more casual setup, and occasionally we organize tournaments. We work through a local school system, so we get a leg up compared to some other similar organizations, as we have venues, some advertising, and a degree of administrative work already done with the schools themselves. I played with this league as a kid myself, and now that I'm an adult, I do some volunteer work for them. Last Sunday we had a tournament. It was a 5-round Swiss system, so this was an event that would last most of the day. I was running the under 12 years old division, which is mostly making sure the kids don't claw each other's eyes out, getting things set up and cleaned up after it's done, and doing the pairings as each round finishes and the next one ends. Because it's an all-day affair, while some parents stay all or most of the time, it's far more common for parents to just drop their kids off in the morning and pick them up at about 4:30 when things finish up. So when things are wrapping up and I was handing out trophies for first, second, and third place, our second place trophy winner had no parent in sight and was just kind kind of awkwardly holding his bag and his trophy looking around. The parents are supposed to be there by 4:30, but we had about 80 kids in just my division of this tournament, so I knew that the odds that at least one will be late are pretty high. So overall, I wasn't very worried. I asked the kid if he had a phone and he did not. I then asked if he knew how to reach out to one of his parents, and then he gave me his mom's number. When I called her, it went to voicemail, so I left a message reminding her that the tournament was over and she needed to pick up her kid. Now, I can't leave if there are any children still there, so I got to doing some cleanup, which the kid offered to help with. It took maybe 20 minutes to pack everything up, but still there was no sight of this mom. I still can't leave, so I got one of the sets back out and asked if he wanted to play a casual game or do a puzzle or anything. He asked if we could go over some of his tournament games, and we spent the next 20 to 25 minutes analyzing one of his games from the tournament. Now, I'm no grandmaster, but I am still a pretty strong player, so even though he won this game, there were quite a few errors in his play, and I was trying to demonstrate what he could have done better. The kid takes the instruction really well and is actually marking notes on his score sheet. Well, all of a sudden, our analysis is interrupted by a woman shouting at me. She screams out, "You there, what are you doing with my son?" I look up and I realize that we have our entitled mother of this kid. Now, she didn't look like a stereotypical Karen, but she definitely had the tone and mannerisms of one. I got up, congratulated her son in front of her for taking second place in the division, and explained how we were going over one of his games while we were waiting for her to show up. The kid chimes in with how I helped him realize a few mistakes, and you could see the gears turning in the entitled mother's brain. After a second, she bellowed out the following: "You can't do that to a kid. If you mix positive messaging and negative messaging, you will give him a complex. And I know what I'm talking about. I have a degree in psychology." Well, when she said that, that took me off my guard, but I wanted to finish cleaning up and go home. So I just said how it's already past 5 and I wanted to finish cleaning up, and I was sure the kid wanted to go home as well. Surprisingly, the entitled mom didn't want to stay and pick a fight any further, simply getting her kid and then leaving. Now, I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was a short one. Well, unfortunately, I was wrong. She sent our organization 21 separate emails demanding that I be fired. Her degree in psychology lets her know how damaging I could be to her precious boy and how I'll rob him of any desire to keep playing by confusing him. It's apparently wrong to tell a child that even though he won a game, and that's great, there are better moves he could have played during the game to improve his play. And she's already gone through this kind of garbage with a coach her husband hired for the kid, and she fired him, and now she wants the league to fire me too. Today's emails have taken a new tone. She must have found out somehow that the kid helped me clean up, because instead of strident demands I be fired on the basis of the profound psychological harm I have done to her kid, now they've claimed that we violated child labor laws, and she'll report us to the state labor board. But she would be happy not to do that if they take responsibility by dismissing me. Now, I know there are nutty parents about chess, but this is the first time I've had prolonged close exposure to one. I'm not worried at all, but I feel bad for the kid. He was nice and respectful, and a part of me wonders where he gets it from, since it certainly isn't from his mother. And no, he hasn't shown any signs of distress from me analyzing a game with him. And with all things considered, I seriously hope I never have to deal with this Karen of a mother ever again. Wow, the entitled mom in that story sounds awful. She didn't even show up to her kid getting second place at a big tournament, but she also is denying him any kind of assistance in getting better, and that in my opinion is like super toxic. Sure, he won the game, but you can always improve. No one's perfect at anything, like why would you not want him to get better? And it's also like crazy to me that she was trying to find every angle possible just to try and get this guy fired for helping out her kid. That's insane to me, and honestly, I hope you never have to deal with her ever again, because that Karen seriously sounds unhinged. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for writing my parents a check for everything they say I owe them, as well as telling them to shut up and get out of my life? Because honestly, they've been obnoxious over the years, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I am 30 years old and fairly successful thus far. My parents are a huge part of my success, and they keep me motivated through school. They gave me a great childhood, they helped me graduate debt-free, my mom's contacts helped me land a well-paying job straight out of university, so I guess you could say I'm a nepo baby. Without them, who knows where I would be? Well, they think this gives them carte blanche to interfere with my life. They constantly critique everything about my life. I cannot think of one aspect of my life that they approve of, and I'm not a bad person or anything like that. It's not like they have a a problem with me because I'm an addict or working as a sugar baby. They just think they know better than everything. I had them over to my place for my dad's birthday, and everything was just wrong. My apartment was too small, the stove didn't have precise control of the heating elements, and I scorched the sauce, even though I didn't, and it was perfect. Like literally everything was just wrong, and they kept saying that they wanted better for me, and that after everything they did for me, I should be doing better. But the thing is, I am doing well, and because I live the way that I do, I've actually done fantastic for the last 8 years. So I wrote them a big check and I asked them to hold on to it. I took a picture of them with the check and they asked what it was for. I said that it was everything they wasted on me, since obviously they think that I have failed. So I'm giving them a refund. I told them that I love them and that I appreciated their help, but now that they were paid back, they could keep their opinions to themselves and out of my apartment. Well, when I said that, they got huffy and then they left. I then heard from my brother that they are angry that I did that. But you know what? I don't really care. I just want them to accept that I don't owe it to them to live my life the way that they want. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't totally think that you're the jerk here. I think you made a very clear point to your parents that they need to back off and let you live your life. Like they have no say in the matter at all, and they seriously need to try and mind their own business. And it seems like this is like the only way to give them a wake-up call. Because you said it best. They are literally all over you trying to run your life, and that's like super obnoxious. You are 30 years old, you're fairly successful, you have your ducks in a row more or less, and honestly, I don't blame you for wanting them to back off. And if this was the way to do that, then so be it. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your parents really needed to like get a reality check, and it seems like this was the best way to make that happen. My entitled father wants me to be a housewife and has been constantly trying to force me in that direction just so he can marry me off to one of his coworkers. And honestly, I am just so glad I'm away from my dad, and I hope I never see him ever again. Here's what happened. So I grew up in a household that was basically a nightmare for both me and my mom. My father had 2 children before me and then 2 children after me, and all these boys he had with my mom. And because I was born right in the middle, I was singled out for a lot of stuff. For example, my dad would often ask each of us what we wanted from the store as a reward for doing well in school. My brothers always got what they wanted, but I hardly got anything. On birthdays, my brothers got to see whatever movies they wanted, but I never got to choose movies that I wanted to see. If I asked for something for Christmas, I more than likely wouldn't get it unless it was from another family member. Whenever one of us started doing bad in school, I would always get the biggest punishments, while my brothers all got off easy. My dad also allowed my brothers to watch him when he cooked so they could learn, but I had to learn how to use things like the grill all on my own. My brothers could wear swim trunks or a Speedo, but I was only allowed to wear a one-piece suit, which I hated because it made going to the bathroom incredibly awkward. My dad would always come and support my brothers whenever they had an event, but whenever I had one, all I would get was constant criticism. The worst one by far is whenever my brothers got birthdays or Christmas money, they'd spend it on candies and toys and clothing, but I wasn't even allowed by my father to touch my money. And I counted from when I was 7 all the way up until I was 15, and I had over $800 in cash that I was denied. Now, this got way worse when I entered middle school. My older brothers by the names of Matt and Kyle, those are not their real names, realized I was being left out, and we talked about it with our little brothers, and now all of us include each other in our celebrations. But now, all of a sudden, my dad was constantly telling my brothers not to interact with me in any way and to pretend like I wasn't even there. And then, all of a sudden, my stuff started going missing. It started small with my pencil sharpener and a note card or something like that, then it escalated into my merchandise disappearing, and then my movies. And anything I bought with my own money would be gone the very next day. Then I would confront my dad about it, and he didn't deny what he did and said that he threw it all away because I'm growing up to be a housewife that doesn't need any of this stuff. But I told him I didn't want to be a housewife. I want to get a real job. And after I said that, he sent me to my room. As I entered high school, I found that my swimsuits had been thrown out, as well as a few of my cool shirts, with my phone also being thrown out. Now, when I found out that that had been thrown out, I tried keeping it cool at school that day, but I just broke down in the middle of class. And when my parents found out about what happened, my dad kicked me out. My older brothers had graduated high school already and were living together to save money, so I went to stay with them, and I was able to get therapy. And eventually, I learned that my stuff wasn't thrown out, and that's when I learned the truth. My dad tried to throw it all out just so he could almost force me into being a housewife so he could marry me off to one of his coworkers. But when I broke down crying in school, he kicked me out so he didn't have to hear hear me because the moment I cried, he decided to abandon the plan and cover his tracks. Now, you might be thinking, where on earth is your mom in all of this? She did everything that she could to help me, but her own husband wouldn't even listen to her. I was the middle child, and he was entitled to everything regarding me because I'm his daughter. And if he wants this to be my life, then this is my life. I mean, it's no wonder that me being kicked out led to them getting divorced. And if you're wondering about my little brothers, they want nothing to do with my dad, and they actively refuse to go to the house. And moving in with Matt and Kyle was easily the best decision I've ever made. I learned that all my stuff was saved from the dumpster and put in a storage facility, so I was able to get all my stuff back. And the clothing that didn't fit me, we sold by having a yard sale. Matt and Kyle's backyard also had a pool and a hot tub, and I was finally able to experience them in a bikini. Thanks to help from mom and my little brothers, I was able to confess to my best friend, who is now my girlfriend. When I turned 18, I came out of my shell and I got piercings in all the places I've always wanted to get them. When I graduated, we celebrated at Matt and Kyle's house. The whole family was there except for my dad. Now, where was he anyways? Well, he got arrested for a DUI car crash after being under the influence of the herb, if you know what I mean, and has been in jail for a few years now awaiting trial. I've now moved out of Matt and Kyle's house as they bought a house for me and my girlfriend, which of course had a pool and a hot tub. So to my dad, I hate you for being absolutely awful to me as a parent, and I hate you for being terrible to me because I was born in the middle. Yeah, your dad is absolutely insane, and he got exactly what he deserved. Like, this guy was trying to marry you off to one of his coworkers while also trying to force you to be a housewife. Like, first of all, that's insane, and secondly, it shows why he was such an awful father and husband. Like, I don't blame your mom for getting out of that situation as fast as possible. So honestly, I'm so glad you're away from that man, and thankfully you won't have to deal with him for a long time, because the way he treated you growing up is honestly so unacceptable, because you did not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting to share my inheritance with my siblings? Because right now they're threatening to sue me if I don't give them a portion of what I inherited. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 50 years old, my brother's 45, and my sister is 53. Our parents got separated after 43 years, and no one told me anything. They see me as a person who's not good for living their own life. I called my daughter, who's 24, and she told me of the separation 4 months afterwards. I reached out to my dad, and he was happy to hear from me and told me my siblings have cut him out of their life. I eventually talked dad to moving to where I was so that he could be closer and I could help him out. I talked to dad every single day. We started going for rides together on weekends, riding motorcycles, having bonfires and cookouts, or just an invite for home-cooked meals. It honestly was so great. One day, dad called to cancel our weekend trip and said he was not feeling well. I told him to go to the hospital, but he insisted that he was fine. I tried to call him on the next day, but he didn't answer. I drove out to check on him, and that's when I discovered him on the floor. I went to the hospital every single day. My siblings and mother eventually showed up to visit him, and I stayed in the hall. After the hospital and rehabilitation, he was sent to a skilled facility. Only after 3 days, he started making comments about the staff there, and about a week later, he asked me to get a camera to put in his room. 2 days after I installed the nanny cam, I caught them treating him horribly. So I called the state, the county, and I filed every report that I could. I hired dad an attorney, and after the attorney was hired, my siblings started to visit about every month. I thought that the family was healing, so we started doing things as a family. Well, dad got his justice, and he received a settlement. With the help of a realtor, I found him a small house and started working on it to bring him home. Dad's health was getting worse, and he entered a hospice care. I had the hospice case manager helping develop a home plan, and dad's health started declining rapidly. Not long afterwards, hospice said it would no longer be advisable to move him. I sat with dad continually, hiring sitters to stay with him when I had to leave. And when my dad passed away, I went home and I just cried. My dad was my very best friend. I pulled out dad's will and took it to the county courthouse to probate. I was told there was no need to probate it, that the will was my deed to dad's house. Dad had filed a POD, which stands for payable on death, and this was at the bank listing me as a sole beneficiary. Our mother kept on telling me it was not right and that I need to give my siblings equal shares of the money. She guilted me to share some of it, and I gave them each about $15,000. But apparently it was not enough, and this was 4 years ago. Fast forward to August 23rd, 2023, and I received a letter from an attorney demanding that I will the house to my siblings, that if I didn't, they would sue me to compensate for the money that I did not give to them. Now, I did not reply to the attorney. I sent him the payable on death form from the bank listing me as the sole beneficiary. I reminded him he had a copy of the will, and I asked him to look it over again, and he would see my siblings had no claim on anything. Now, I have yet to hear any kind of response from their attorney, but I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for not sharing my inheritance with my siblings? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, from the sounds of it, it really doesn't seem like your siblings had any kind of stake in your dad's health. Like your dad said it best, they cut him out of their lives, and they want nothing to do with him. And it's only when he was like close to his deathbed that they were even giving him the time of day. And that's really toxic in my opinion. Now, I don't know the details about why the parents got separated or anything like that, so I'm sure there's some kind of nuance there that we definitely don't know as the reader. But with all things considered, it honestly just sounds like the siblings have sour grapes because they didn't get any of the house. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have a long road ahead of you when it comes to finding resolution to all of this, but hopefully with all things considered, it works out in your favor. My girlfriend wants me to stop contacting my ex-girlfriend, as she claims that I'm still attached to her, even though I just consider us friends. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I started dating my current girlfriend in 2023, and at first she was cool with me being friends with my ex, but I will say my ex did some messed up stuff to us, like starting arguments and trying to include my girlfriend in it, and even the way that she left our house. She didn't tell me, and I happened to come back home one day after spending nights at my girlfriend's house, and all her stuff was packed up, while also taking some of my stuff in the process. Well, that was all months ago, and honestly, I can't hold grudges. Honestly, it's kind of the opposite. I really suck at letting people go. And this isn't the first fight that we've had about letting someone go. I actually had to let go of a different ex turned friend who was honestly a better person than this one. I know that in a lot of relationships, people hate their partners talking about their exes, but I really can't be friends with them with little to no drama, and I just want her to trust me on that. How can she tell me that she trusts me that I won't go back to her, but then tell me that she really does not want me talking to her at all? And also, how do I tell her that it's not the fact that I'm dying on the hill of talking to my ex, but it's about the freedom of choosing what I do? I hate the ultimatum of you have to do this or I'm gonna leave, when in reality, you should just trust me to be a good person. I mean, I don't know, am I in the wrong here? Should I just cut it off entirely? We don't have kids or anything like that, but I feel like it doesn't hurt to be friendly in some kind of way. Oh, and I did send my ex a song the other day that reminded me of her, but my girlfriend blew up about how that means I'm still super attached, but that's just who I am. I would do that for literally anybody. So honestly, I feel really stuck, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, I think your girlfriend is 100% correct. It really seems like you're still attached to your ex-girlfriend, and you clearly have not let go of that person and moved on. Like, you do know you're in another relationship, right? You do realize you have a girlfriend right now, and that she is way more important than your ex-girlfriend who left in the middle of the night? Like, from the sounds of it, your ex-girlfriend probably doesn't feel the same way about you as you do about her. Like, she straight up just ditched out of your life, and you're trying to be like, oh, but we could still be friends. It's like, no, you can't. She clearly doesn't like you. This isn't some situation where she was a friend in the first place. She was your girlfriend. And for you to still be in contact with her, in my opinion, if I was in your girlfriend's shoes, that would be like a clear indication that no, you have not moved on. Like, why on earth would you be sending songs to your ex-girlfriend when what you should be doing is sending songs to your girlfriend? Like, why would you waste your time making your ex-girlfriend feel special when your current girlfriend feels like garbage because you're not paying attention to her? And it really seems like you're dancing around the issue. You're trying to be like, ooh, I would do this for anybody. But that's the thing, you're not doing this for anybody. You're doing this for your ex-girlfriend. Like, you're paying attention to her for some reason, and that is absolutely a sign that you have not let go of her. And I think the word friendship is a really bad terminology in this case. I think if anything, you could probably be amicable in some kind of way, but going out of your way to like reach out to her and like send messages to her and stuff like that, that is really weird in my opinion, and I think you are absolutely in the wrong for pursuing it in this way. My awful entitled foster parents kicked me out of the house when I was 18 years old, all because they couldn't make money off of me anymore from the state. But now, after all these years later, they're now contacting me, begging me to move back in with them, all under the guise that I'll have a place to stay so that I can pay off their mortgage that they can no longer afford. But I decide to put them in their place by telling them off in a way that I've wanted to do since I was 18 years old. Here's what happened. Okay, so I wish I was making this stuff up because I honestly cannot believe the audacity or the stupidity of these people. Now, to start things out, I was told to leave by my 18th birthday by my foster parents, as I would no longer be profitable past 18 years old. And this is based off of a paid fostering scheme by the local council. So I slipped out in the small hours of of the morning a month after my 17th birthday. I found my biological parents purely by chance, even though I wasn't looking for them, and this is right before my 18th birthday, and it turned out that I look exactly like my mother. I mean, we almost look like twins. She was forced to give me up by her parents after having me at 15 years old, and she was not given a choice in the matter. I was reunited with my biological family just after my 18th birthday, and I moved in with them at 19 years old. I then spent the next 6 years working 60 hours a week and paying zero rent. My mom refused to take a penny from me until I could put down a deposit for a mortgage on my own place. Well, I dropped $110,000 up front on a $165,000 two-bedroom flat in 2015, and I will be mortgage-free before the end of 2024. I have not been in contact with my foster parents since I slipped out in 2007. I never had any intent of keeping in touch with them, as they never once pretended to care about me during my childhood. I do, however, keep in touch with their biological daughter Kelly. That's not her real name, and that's because Kelly is also someone who doesn't talk to them. She actually had my back during my childhood, and I had hers. Just before Christmas was done, they got in touch with Kelly and asked her if she still talks to me at all, and that they would like to get in touch with me. Kelly told them this was my choice to make and not theirs, and that she would forward a number to me. So I picked up an old burner phone and I texted back to them. I said to them, "What do you want?" They responded by saying, "Hi, how have you been? We've been worried about you all these years." I responded by saying, "Baloney. There is something you want from me. Don't waste my time with small talk, just get to the point already." They responded back by saying, "Okay, fine, you're right. We have something to ask. We are having trouble paying the mortgage after interest rates have gone up. So our repayment has also gone up. Would you consider moving back in with us to help out? We need some extra income for the next 15 years. You can have the bigger room with the in-suite bathroom this time." I responded back by saying, "I literally have 1 year left on my mortgage, and my repayments did not go up at all, and I might even be able to pay it off early. So no, I will not move in with you. Maybe you can try some nefarious activities or get another foster child to pay for your stuff." They responded back by saying, "There is no need to be rude to us. We are trying to help you here. We are offering you an opportunity. Do you have a job? I mean, what do you do for money?" I said to them, "Oh, I'm a doctor, and I diagnose you as completely stupid. Dr. Danny hereby prescribes you a nice tall glass of shut up, because you two must be really stupid if you want me to believe that you would be helping me out by having me pay to live with you. If ever I choose to tolerate your presence in my life again, it will be you paying for the privilege of my company." Well, when I said that, they definitely did not like that. They responded back by saying, "Oh, just forget it if you're gonna act like that." I texted back by saying, "Bye, have a nice day," and then they responded by swearing at me, in which I texted back by saying, "No thank you." Now at this point, I just turned off the phone and stuck it back in my forget it drawer. That was December 18th, and I had a great Christmas with my biological family and my foster sister, seeing how she spends Christmas with my parents rather than hers. Now you might think I was being harsh with my foster parents here, especially with all the stupid comments, but I assure you that they were gold medalists at doing the bare minimum as parents. I was fed and given clothing, I was given a room and a bed, and I was sent to school, but I had no toys, no birthday or Christmas presents, no care or love. I was basically just a lodger who got his rent paid by the state. And for them to now try to ask for my help whilst painting it as them helping me? No, I don't think so. My biological mother was more of a mother to me in the first day of knowing her than my foster mother was in 17 years. So I guess that's what you get when you neglect one child for his entire childhood, and then lose both of them because of it. Kelly slipped out the back at 17 just like I did, and I know that because I was the one to pick her up, and we've never felt better about moving on away from those awful people. Wow, they really do sound like pieces of work. Not only do they kick you out at 18 years old because they can't make any more money off of you, then all these years later, when you've established yourself and you've got all this money at your disposal and you have your own home and life, they step back in and say, "Hey, you should move back in. That way we can make our mortgage." It's like, what in the world is wrong with these people? Like, they definitely have got to have some kind of screws loose in their head if they think it's okay to treat people this way. So truly good for you for shutting them down and putting them in their place, because these foster parents don't sound like parents at all. And I guarantee you, if you did by some chance move back in with them, then all their terrible behaviors would come back and haunt you once again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting revenge on a former friend after they practically ruined my life and spread spread false rumors about me to everybody in my school. Because right now, I'm still getting over the way that I was treated. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story is a little hard to summarize due to the extreme amount of content, and I apologize if this story is really long. It will take a while for you guys to understand the severity of the situation before the climax, or else I will look like the obvious jerk here. As a heads up, I'm in high school, and I have 3 really good friends, but I lost 2 throughout this story. I always had a really bipolar relationship with one of these friends, and for the sake of the story, we'll just call him Jack. Jack is not his real name. Now, Jack could be a real jerk sometimes, but then he could suddenly become really nice, and a lot of people would end up falling for his so-called good side lie. He started dating one of my friends, who we will call Kate, also not her real name, and they became really close. As much as I see the big personality difference, I honestly didn't mind. They seemed really happy to be together, so I was just happy for them. Jack eventually joined our group with my 2 other friends and myself. I was close to one of those people, as they were my best friend since my early days as a teenager. We'll call this person Kai, also not their real name. Kai was a good and logical friend. He wasn't the loud or attention-seeking type of friend. He was reasonable, smart, and friendly. One day, his grandmother overseas got sick, and he had to go overseas to see her. I wished him well, and he would be gone for at least 4 weeks, which meant I was then stuck with my 2 other friends, who were both around my same age. They started getting really close with Jack, literally, like as if both of them were dating him. I didn't really mind about that part, only when they started leaving me out of things. They would often forget about me, exclude me in groups, and I guess just overall ignore me. But for Jack, I could see that he was happy. Now, I am not being a toxic hater, but I honestly felt like he just joined our group and ended up being the heart of the group, even though he just joined yesterday. Now, being that idiot I went to confront him privately first to see what he thinks about what's happening. So I asked him how he's doing and how he likes the new group. He replied saying it's good and that it's probably going to be his permanent group. I then get straight to the point and I ask him to maybe consider including me in more things, as I felt a little left out. Now, expecting him to be nice about it, I was met with literally the exact opposite. Here's how he responded. He laughed at me and then he said, "You really think I would go out of my way just so you can be friends with them? Just accept it. They like me better than you and there's nothing you can do about it." Now, when he said this, I was taken aback by this response, but I just walked away to avoid escalation. And just as a side note, our entire friend group, including Jack, are in the same class, and this will allow the story to make a little bit more sense. I then proceed to talk to my 2 other friends about what Jack had just said, but while I was doing so, he came along, and to avoid him finding out I was telling them, I just immediately left. After swiftly running away, I stopped and I feel my phone fall out of my back pocket. I pick it up only to see that I accidentally butt recorded for about 3 minutes, and this will be important later on. After that, I just think that maybe it would be better if I just forgot about what he said, but unfortunately, I wasn't given that privilege. When I was in class, I was just minding my own business until I saw at the corner of my eye, Jack talking to the 2 of my friends. By the looks on their faces, they seemed shocked, like as if whatever he was saying, they believed him. Now, I honestly just brushed it off, and I thought maybe it was just a movie spoiler or something like that. But then my friend Kate came up to me with my other friend. We'll call this other friend Eve, which is also not her real name. They proceeded to say to me, "I can't believe that you would do that to Jack. You're such a jerk and you're officially out of our group." Now, after a bit of a heated conversation, I found out that Jack told them that I was the one who said all the things that he did, and that I cursed at him in the locker rooms, punched him, and said that's how he got his bruise, which I know for a fact isn't the case, because he got it from playing soccer 2 days ago. As much as I was mad, I didn't really care. I knew that they would come to their senses eventually, and that they would know that they were wrong. Now, I showed it quite obviously, and that didn't exactly satisfy Jack, as he probably wanted a reaction from me. So the next day I come in, and I walk into class only to see everybody staring at me. I look back at everybody and I raise my shoulders and take a seat. I then get paper thrown at me from behind, and constant whispers with my name in it passed around. Now, I was extremely confused what exactly was going on, and I was greeted with more garbage during lunch break when a whole lot of kids called me insults and poured water all over me. After all of this, I still tried to not show any forms of anger. I now knew their intentions were explicit and that they just didn't like me. But why? Well, you see, Jack is quite a popular kid, and he's a well-known name around the school. He acts all nice and most people like him, and unfortunately, they tend to believe him a lot more. After talking to a quiet kid on socials, I found out that Jack spread really sick rumors about me, some of which were really petty, stuff like me cursing at him in DMs, and some of them were bad as direct threats, as well as physical violence against him. And when I heard about this, I knew that this wasn't going to be good for me. The next morning, I wake up with over 60 messages and 5 missed calls. I read them, and I swear 90% of them were threats against me, including that I somehow get hurt, as well as racist insults. Now, I am quite thick-skinned, but seeing all of this was just a little bit too much for me. I somehow built the guts to go to school that day, and I entered the classroom with 20 pairs of eyes giving me an evil stare. I got paper and books thrown at me, my name said next to very bad words, and worst of all, my 2 friends were laughing at me, and the teacher just didn't even notice. I then went outside at break to go and hide in some unknown corner of the school, as I was too scared to see anybody. The rumors were so bad, they were even being spread to higher year levels, which made me scared for my life after reading those messages. When dismissal came, I stayed in the classroom, pretending to clean up my books by dropping them and waiting for everybody to leave the school before leaving myself. Now, you're probably wondering why I didn't just tell the teachers or my parents. I get this question a lot when I'm telling friends and family this story, and it's because it was just hard. If you were in that situation, it would not have been so easy, as I felt like my life and my reputation was on the line. I go home and I thank God that it's Friday, and I keep getting countless messages on my phone. I end up blocking everybody, and I silence my phone to only focus on my homework and my studies. I mean, forget my social life. That can all go away now because it's all messed up thanks to one person. I couldn't sleep, and I kept reciting the awful things that people were saying to me. The weekend flies by, and bam, it's Monday. I try my best to pretend that I'm sick, but I was forced to go anyways. I walk in being as stealthy as I could. Also, I could be the first one in class. I look down at my book and I focus on nothing else but that. I can feel cold splashes of water hitting my back, but I just ignore it. Recess and lunch, I stay in the same corner still studying. It's like that every day for maybe the next 3 weeks, only getting worse every single time. Whether it be online or in person, the insults and the awful comments were everywhere. It went so far as to someone slapping my hand in class when the teacher was not around to see it. And some days my thoughts got really dangerous, and I was honestly not in a good headspace, with my feelings being really intense at the time. Well, one day I headed to that same corner, only to see Jack and this huge gang of people blocking my way. I tried to ignore it and I go around them, but they push me back. Jack then says to me, "I bet I could beat your weak, skinny self in a 1v1. Now, honestly, I go to the gym 5 times every single week, and I could say that I was pretty tall, but on the other hand, Jack was short and skinny. Sometimes I question why I couldn't have just physically intimidated him in the first place, but it was 1 versus 7, so it was pretty impossible. I then rebuttal to his argument, and I say to him that I'm sorry for whatever I did, and I just want you to leave me alone. Well, they then pushed me to the ground and proceeded to attack me. Things got really bad, and I got really injured, and it's right about then that I started to run. And not just run away, I ran out of the school itself. After getting home, my parents got an absent email, and I just made up some dumb excuse. That night, I laid in bed thinking about a way I could finally end this. I watched videos on how to negotiate and how to de-escalate arguments, but then one particular video catches my eye, and this is a self-defense tutorial. I watch this, and then I watch more and more videos among that line. I remember doing martial arts when I was younger, when I was about 5 years old, but I quit all that when I started high school. I proceeded to practice all night to perfect my technique, only to then continue that for 2 more nights, and that's until I finally built the courage to confront him myself. I go up to him and I gaze into his eyes. His idiot buddy's watching from behind, and he said, "What are you up to, loser? What do you want now?" I tell him to stop whatever he's doing and to tell everybody the truth. He denies speaking any lies, and then he attacks me again. But this time, I don't flinch, and he just does it again. But then I decide to finally defend myself, and in the end, he holds his jaw and falls backwards. His friends defends him by trying to restrain me, but I lash out and I defend myself against them as well. I can feel all of their insults and awful comments towards me that has just built up for so long coming back to me now. I then break away from one of the kids and I go after Jack. A huge upperclassman stands in my way and pushes me back, but I was able to defend myself and continue my chase. His friends try to stop me, but all of them fail every single time. I see him standing next to my 2 friends pointing at me, and then it hits me, my phone recording. I catch my breath, pull out my phone, and I look for the video, and loud and clear was everything that I said. My friends look shocked as I played it again and again and again. His friends finally arrives, and I play the same thing over and over again to their faces. He immediately denies it, saying that I said stuff to him online, but I asked for screenshots and he quickly changes the subject. After everybody seems to start believing that everything he said was a lie, he finally confesses and says he did it, but blames it on his past experiences and his ADHD, as well as claiming that he has friendship problems too. I scoff loudly and I say the most proud words I've ever said. I said to him, "You really think ADHD did this? You really think all of your friends have to do with this? Imagine being rejected by your only friends, waking up every day to awful comments sent right to your phone, and not being able to study because all you jerks wanted to do was hurt me. I've had enough of you and I'm reporting you to this school." And yes, I was recording that the whole time. I then get messages from 3 people. The first and most funny one was from Jack, begging that I not tell the teacher, which I was dumbfounded by. The other 2 were my friends begging for my forgiveness, so I just blocked them and carried on. Soon the word spread, and I was out of people's conversations, and now it was Jack's turn. Now that I felt safe, and after I told the teachers, Jack was suspended for 10 days due to bullying, and anybody who sent me awful messages was also suspended too, and all I got was detention for getting in a fight. They said they wouldn't have given me the detention because I was only defending myself from them, but they had to do it due to the school rules, which I understood. I honestly feel like I could have toned down the fighting a little bit, but it was real for me, so it was really hard to control. Now, I am still trying to get over some of the things that were said online to me, as some of it was very personal, but for now, I think I'm going to be alright. Wow, that's a crazy circumstance. And you know what? I know exactly where the original poster is coming from, and I know how hard it is to be in high school and to have people reject you and constantly coming after you. I'm someone myself who dealt with a lot of bullying, and I had a really hard time in high school and middle school, so I really sympathize with the original poster and their story and all the stuff they went through. And you know what? Some might think that this is not an accurate representation of being a high school student, but this is not too far away from my experience in high school, as well as several other people's experiences when they went through high school as well. And honestly, if you never went through this, I commend you and I applaud you, because this kind of stuff happens a lot more than you might realize. Kids get bullied for really stupid reasons, and it's never a simple situation to get out of. I can say for myself that getting in a fight like that is not a good idea. In my opinion, it's always the best idea to find a teacher or a parent and explain exactly what's going on and trying to find a solution that way. So honestly, I hope the original poster's life has gotten a lot better, because what they described from their high school experience honestly sounded awful, and hopefully nothing like that ever happens ever again. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that she's brainwashed, all because she wants to watch the Super Bowl simply because of Taylor Swift? Because right now she is really mad at me and she's demanding an apology, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've been watching American football since I was a kid. I am a huge New England Patriots fan, and my wife has never watched it, and we've been together for almost 10 years. She is athletic and she does like sports, but she always said watching sports on TV is a huge waste of time, which is completely fine. I respect that. And she never said that I shouldn't watch it or try to nag me about it. My wife is a huge Taylor Swift fan, so now that she is dating Travis Kelce, my wife suddenly shows great interest in football and even started watching it, with her of course supporting Kelce's team. And honestly, that felt a little weird to me. For example, she made fun of me when I was in a bad mood when the Patriots lost and said that it's stupid to feel that way because it's only sports. But now she's fully invested in the Super Bowl, and we are not even American. But I didn't say anything because at least she shows interest in football. For the last few years, it became a tradition that me and my 3 friends watch the Super Bowl at my place. The first time was in my parents' house, and now it's in my apartment. My wife never joins us, so it's become a guys' night. Well, a couple of nights ago, she said that she wants to host a Taylor Swift-themed Super Bowl party, and she wanted to invite her friends. I said to her that they are more than welcome to join us, but that I won't host a Taylor Swift-themed party in my apartment on what was supposed to be a guys' night planned well in advance. Well, she started screaming that I was being rude to her. Then I told her what I think about all of this, so I told her that I can't believe she even wants to watch it after all the comments of how it's such a waste of time, that I can't believe she changed all of her views just because of Taylor, and that she's just being brainwashed by the media. Well, now she's mad at me and she wants me to apologize. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, a few things to point out. There might have been some kind of middle ground you could have gone to when it comes to like planning a party, and I think if you said, hey, I don't want to have a Taylor Swift themed party, but we can have some kind of party in general, like maybe compromise a little bit so the both of you can be happy with this party while still preserving that you want your friends there and you want to have a good time. But I think all of that went straight out the window window the second you called her brainwashed and you said, wow, you don't even like any of this. Like, it really seems like you're trying to like gatekeep the situation. And in my opinion, that is such a terrible way to go about doing this. Like, think about it. For the first time in your 10-year relationship, your wife is actually interested in football. And sure, it took Taylor Swift of all people to make that happen, but at least you now have some kind of like common hobby. But I really think you blew any kind of opportunity of having that continue in the future after you said that your wife is brainwashed. Like, that's incredibly toxic, and I think you really do need to apologize. So in my opinion, I think you're the jerk, and I think you should have handled that way better than you actually did. An entitled Karen and her husband freak out on me when I offer to get extra plates for their sons, as they go off on a tangent that they would never eat any of our food and that the only thing they'll ever eat is McDonald's. And I've honestly never been more confused or blown away by someone's weird attitude in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, let me start by giving just a little bit of background information. I've been a server for about 7 years now, almost 8, and this happened to me last night, and I know that you guys are gonna get a kick out of this. So last night we were extremely busy. Also, it was only me and another experienced server on the floor. The other 3 servers were just new hires. I was getting my butt kicked so hard, and so was the other experienced server. The hostess just kept seating us too while taking it easy on the new hires, despite being extremely busy and having to make hot tea, which at my restaurant is a huge pain in the neck. We have to take this stupid big box full of several different flavors of hot tea to the table, let them pick out what they want, and then walk all the way back and make the stupid thing. And we have to do this every time, even if they've already had one. Anyways, despite all of this, I was doing great and taking care of my people. Then I got a 5-top. It was 3 kids and their parents. I greeted them, got their drinks, and after giving them their drinks, they were ready to order. But only the parents ordered. Now, I'm a mom as well, and when I go to a restaurant, I always share with my youngest because we both eat like birds. So I asked the mom if she would like 3 extra plates for her kids in case they were going to share. And this is where things went really downhill. The dad laughed and said, "Only if you've got McDonald's in here." The mom then immediately got irritated and started on this rant. She said to me, "My boys are autistic and have sensory issues, and the only thing they can eat is McDonald's." And she just went on and on. At the end of it, I just said, "Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and get the menus out of your way then." So I take their menus and I go send in their order. Everything else goes smoothly, and I check on them after getting their food, with them saying that everything is great. I made sure to refill their drinks when needed, and I didn't even think that there was a problem. They pay their bill and then they left a 10% tip. Then, as they're leaving, they go to my manager and tell them that it was the worst service they've ever had. Luckily, where I work, we have amazing managers who usually side with us servers and will get the facts before just pulling the trigger on us. He asked her what was wrong with her service, but she simply couldn't answer that, and instead huffed her way out the door with her family. My manager then came up to me later and told me what happened. I laughed and gave my side of the story, and he laughed, and I obviously had to tell my other servers what happened, and we all got a good laugh about it. Like, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Go to McDonald's for them? Was I supposed to sympathize with her about her 3 autistic kids who had to watch their parents eat first in front of them? My sister is autistic. She has Asperger's, and she doesn't want pity or sympathy. She just wants to be treated like a regular human being, which is exactly what I did for that table. So genuinely, did I do something wrong, or was that table just impossible to save from the start? You didn't do anything wrong. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I mean, here you have a family of 5 people and only 2 of them are ordering food. Like, that seems like a really big red flag, and I think you made the right choice of trying to be relatable and be like, okay, let me get you like 3 extra plates. Because, you know, most kids are gonna be like, wait a second, I want some of your food now that I see it in front of me. Like, that's not unusual for you to try to be accommodating. What is unusual though, is this weird entitled Karen going off on you, being like, oh my god, my kids only like McDonald's, as if you were somehow supposed to like read her mind or something like that. Like, if your kids seriously need to eat at McDonald's or anything like that, then you probably should have gone there, or at least get a babysitter and then go out with just the 2 of you. There's no reason to take this out on the server. They didn't do anything to you. So honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think the way these people acted was incredibly entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled couple at my restaurant job make my life a living nightmare, constantly giving me impatient, dirty looks as if I wasn't already working myself down to the bone. And I seriously hope I never have a day like this ever again in my life. Here's what happened. So I was working at a privately owned fine dining restaurant some years back. It was a 3-story building, and even though we had food runners, all staff was required to help run food to the parties on the floors we weren't working cooking if we were in the kitchen when it was plated. It wasn't an ideal system to begin with, but it became even less so the busier we got. Well, there was one particular Mother's Day where Murphy's Law decided to come and take a massive dump on the place. Reservations had been lost or deliberately not booked by a hostess who had since been fired. Now, in her defense, she was wrongfully terminated, but she completely screwed over us as well as the owners. Also, a nasty bug was going around, and what staff we did have was all sick as dogs, miserable and exhausted from the grueling double we pulled the day before, and the kitchen was 5 tickets deep in the weeds. Our wine rep didn't drop off 3 cases of the featured champagne, and this is stuff that we had advertised at a special price. And our only bartender chose their other job over us that day, so we were stuck making most of our own drinks on top of everything else. It was a complete disaster. So I had an 8-top that was looking to be my only saving grace during this nightmare fever dream that I was working through. We didn't do auto gratuity on holidays, and why that's the case I will never know. Things had gone well initially, but took a sudden turn into a steep dive off a cliff once we got to the halfway point. We somehow ran out of several menu items, even though we were only 4 hours into the shift, between relaying delays and out of stock food and drink items to them, and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, with trays of food up, down, sideways, and outside. They were getting increasingly impatient and upset, mostly because they couldn't see me working my butt off. I was drenched in sweat. My cuffs looked like I dunked them in coffee from helping load dishes in between running food, and this is because the dishwasher jammed and it took an hour to fix. And my makeup was reminiscent of crying because I got stood up at prom. Things were going downhill very fast, but things get significantly worse when this entitled couple sit in my section. I had a 2-top who had been absolute miserable jerks since the moment their oversized bottoms hit their seats, and their food was up as I staggered dazed into the kitchen as chef is bellowing the phrase hands. We had to substitute one of their sides and no one had let me know so I could prepare them, so I mentally braced for the chewing out session I was about to walk into. I was 20 feet away when I saw the man at the 2-top frantically looking around. When his beady eyes spotted me, the sneer in his face confirmed that he'd been searching for me and wasn't too pleased about whatever it was he had to wait on. I could see my 8-top head swiveling as well, the disappointment on their faces when they realized it wasn't their food coming to them, despite having been there for an hour at least. Other tables in my section were all looking distressed as well, whether it be from the hunger, the heat, and the hassle that should have been a nice meal out for their moms or wives. In that moment, my mind cleared and I made a decision. I stumbled, half windmilling my arms as an attempt to maintain my balance and my plates. I initially intended to drop to one knee, valiantly managing to save the beautiful filet with a pat of compound butter melting perfectly on top, and the pan-seared salmon with an artfully drizzled sauce, with parsley carefully placed on the side, cut from the chef's personal herb garden. But what I failed to take into account was my naturally clumsy nature that I had to fight tooth and nail to overcome every single shift I work when hastily crafting this plan. So what actually happened was I pitched headfirst into the water station, upending an entire tray of heavy, polished silverware and a half-filled stainless steel pitcher onto my head, while sending my dishes flying down the aisle, where they exploded on the metal base of table 44. Now, even my awful 2-top ended up leaving 18%, and the 8-top collectively left me over 25%. I wouldn't even try for sympathy tips if the mistakes were my fault, but this day especially was completely out of my control, so I just don't feel bad doing what I needed to do. Yeah, that is a really rough situation. It clearly sounds like one of those days where if it can go wrong, it definitely will. And it doesn't help that you have people staring at you begging for your food, almost saying to you, wow, you need to work harder. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm literally running with my head cut off. So hopefully things work out in the future and you're able to have better days at that restaurant, because what you described definitely sounded incredibly awful. My retired mother lives with me rent-free and I honestly won out. But if I leave, she will literally be left with nothing. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother is retired and has no income other than a couple of stock dividends that she's had for years and Social Security from my father, who passed away about 26 years ago. She is unable to work due to medical reasons. She cannot get medical disability or retirement benefits from my understanding, as both would negate the Social Security and she would be paid even less. I am paying 100% of the rent, the gas and electric, as well as any streaming services and Spotify. I also pay for my own personal bills, which include my insurance, my car note, my cell phone, credit cards, gasoline, I mean, you name it. My mother is only responsible for the internet bill and food. She also pays for her own personal bills, but complains that she can barely afford that. She is extremely difficult to live with and very dependent. She has severe depression with some anxiety. She can't seem to find a doctor that she likes, and there have also been a lot of medication changes lately. This hasn't been the cause of any mental illness, but it has certainly made things a lot worse. She gets very angry and nasty sometimes, and there is no reasoning with her. She will get offended at anything, and it's honestly not pleasant. And no, this is not dementia or anything of the sort. I do speak to her regular doctors, and she's not committable. My mother guilt trips me constantly over anything and everything, always needs to know what I'm doing, and is always criticizing everything. I mean, nothing is ever good enough. I can't date anyone because she will tear them apart. She cannot see the good in them, only the bad, and this has gone on since I was a teenager. I've tried just not discussing anyone I'm dating, but then it turns into how I don't ever talk to her about anything, and that I never want to hear what she has to say. I basically live in my room when I'm home because I just can't be around her. The point of this whole thing is that I just don't know what to do. I do love my mother very much, but we've had a strained relationship since I was a teenager. Setting boundaries doesn't work, putting my foot down doesn't work. We've had discussion after discussion. I want to be able to live my life. I cannot live like this any longer. I'm not looking for judgment, I'm just looking for advice. It makes me sick to my stomach to even think about moving somewhere without her. I mean, she has nothing. How can I move on with my life without ruining hers? What should I do? Wow, this really sounds like a tricky situation, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like your mom has nowhere else to go. For context, the original poster is 40 years old and their mom is 70. She's got no income, she's got nothing besides what, Social Security and a few other things. Like, this really is a rock and a hard place situation, and it really is unfair to you completely. But I think you need to remember going into this, regardless of what you choose to do, that no matter how you try to phrase it or how you try to go about this, your mom is probably going to freak out on you the second you try to move out without her. I think that is just inevitable, and I think you need to understand that going into this. She clearly doesn't respect you, and she treats you like garbage and is clearly using you, so it's honestly unfortunate and it's really not fair. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So hopefully you can find some kind of solution. I don't know if there's some kind of like local service that can help you transition her into her like own home or something like that. But regardless, I honestly hope it works out in your favor, because the way your mom is treating you is honestly not fair. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she called my partner a gold digger? Because right now I am still upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I come from a well-off family, but my dad always taught me to work hard and have class. When I was 14 years old, I started working at my dad's company part-time to earn my allowance, and when I turned 16, I became a real part-time employee. My dad decided to retire when I was 29 years old and handed the business to me. Back in my second year of university, I met Kim. Kim is not his real name. We were in the same course and ended up in the same group for a group project near the beginning of the year. We had a similar sense of humor and clicked as friends very quickly. One day, he mentioned he loves to cook and told me that we should cook together because I love to cook as well. And that weekend, we went to his place, bought some ingredients, and cooked together. This then became us going shopping for ingredients after class on Friday, and I would stay the night at his place and we would cook on the weekend, and this became our weekly routine. Now, back then, I just told others that we were just friends, but in hindsight, this is definitely when I started to fall for him. I finally asked him out a few months later, and he said yes. We lived in the same house with two other friends in our third year, and I asked him to move in with me after we graduated. From the beginning, I told Kim that I would not care if he didn't work, but he insisted he wanted to contribute financially. But after about a year, I had to make him stop. Due to the difference in our incomes, he was working himself half to death and was getting ill trying to contribute enough. I sat him down and I told him that whatever money he made didn't matter, that if he wanted to work, I wanted him to be happy. So he cut back his hours, then moved to part-time, and then decided to quit and work on his own projects. But he insisted that I let him take on some of the housework. Now, with that bit out of the way, this is where some of the issues begin. My sister and her partner both work, and he makes significantly less than her. And in private to me, she's made it known to me that she resents being the breadwinner. She sees all her male colleagues spoil and treat their wives, and wishes her partner would do the same. Now, he does treat her, but just not to the same level due to the fact that he basically makes about half as much as they do. Now, recently, I was talking to her about what I was going to get Kim for his birthday next month. She kept telling me that my ideas were too much and that I should get something cheaper since he doesn't contribute. Now, when she said that, I got a bit annoyed because I told her about Kim's insecurities of not making or being enough, and I told her he contributes more than enough. But then she said something that honestly blew my mind. She called him a glorified gold digger. And when she said that, I yelled at her. I told her to shut up and to not talk about Kim in that way. After calming down, I do feel bad. I know how she feels about her own financial position, but I don't think it's fair that she takes it out on me or Kim, even if Kim wasn't physically there. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister sounds like she's really projecting her frustrations and insecurities on you, and it almost sounds like she's trying to demonize Kim in some kind of way. Like, for starters, your situation is none of her business, and she has no say in how you handle your house. So for her to be like, oh, he's just a gold digger, he's just getting money from you, or to even imply that Kim is mooching off of you in some kind of way, that is incredibly insulting, and I wouldn't put up with that for a second. It's downright disturbing for her to make that kind of assumption when you know for a fact that she's talking about her own relationship. She basically wishes she could be in Kim's situation because it sounds like she doesn't want to work. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your sister is absolutely out of line, and what she's saying is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling a new friend not to come to brunch unless she could try to keep the conversations light? Because every time I've talked to her, she has always dumped her emotional baggage at my doorstep, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Let me start off by saying that I've had an awful week. I won't go into every unnecessary detail, but suffice to say the collision of various medical, work, and relationship stressors all at once have definitely pushed me to my last nerve. I banged my wrist on a doorknob yesterday, and I sunk to the floor and cried on the spot for half an hour. And this is because I simply couldn't take one more thing right now. I had brunch planned for today with a pretty new acquaintance. It was actually scheduled weeks ago, so I didn't anticipate what kind of shape I was gonna be in for today. We've hung out a handful of times, and we have a lot in common, but she has a bit of an oversharing problem. My life sucks in the short term, because right now I'm like a lightning rod for 2 years worth of garbage that's all going wrong all at once. Her life sucks for more long term because of family and mental health related reasons, which she has started going into ever increasing levels of morose detail. And I've got to be honest, it is way too much for how little we actually know each other. I am really not in a place to become close friends with someone who chronically does not have a modicum of their stuff together. But because of my current lightning rod situation, I have not been able to make a clean break. So I figured I would just get through today and that I would tell her I need to take a step back when I had a crumb of dopamine to spare for that uncomfortable conversation. So at like 6 in the morning, she texted me stuff like, "You are literally the only person I can trust," and also saying that her life is falling apart because she has a week to find her own place. And I'm thinking, okay, that's relatable, but also, what are you talking about? I am not your Facebook wall circa 2011, and I'm just thinking ahead to the hour-long hardcore trauma dump session that I am literally about to endure. So I text her back and say, hey, I'm really sorry for everything that you're going through right now, but I am really in no position to be anyone's emotional support right now. So if you don't think we can have a brunch today without you bringing up intense stuff, I would rather cancel. She responded back by saying, wow, okay, followed up several hours later with a bombardment of tweets about how the world doesn't revolve around me, and how she's so sorry that the stuff she's going through in her life right now simply didn't wait until it was convenient for me, while also saying that it sucks to be vulnerable and in need of a listening ear and be told essentially to shut up. She also said that I care more about enjoying my brunch than I do about being an empathetic person. Now, I don't know if my exhaustion and stress made me act like an awful person, or if it made me justified to want to have a meal where I could actually relax for an hour. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? In my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think the fact that you were open and honest with this friend was really a good step in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the way you may have said this to this friend was a little bit aggressive, and it could have been like reworded in some kind of way, but I think her reaction is completely over the top. She was definitely looking to dump her emotional baggage on you, and that after a long time, especially with a new friend, is like really weird. Like, I'm all about being a listening ear for just about anybody, and I'm more than willing to help out if I can. But when every single conversation goes in this direction, honestly, that is incredibly exhausting, and I just don't think I would want to deal with that in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think the other girl in this situation has a really weird attitude, and I do not think that you were in the wrong for setting up expectations for the brunch you were going to share. Am I the jerk for not caring about my parents or even wanting to get to know them? Because at this point, I have my own life, and I'm kind of sick of their guilt tripping all of the time. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and I was the glass child in my family. I'm the youngest of 5, and I'm the only one without severe health or mental issues, so I fell through the cracks. I spent almost all my time alone in my room reading or playing video games, and I generally didn't mind this. And I also want to make it clear here that I don't resent my parents or siblings. They didn't parentify me or make me my sibling's caretaker. My things were never taken for my siblings' benefit. I was just invisible because I didn't need them the way the other four did. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I made friends with 2 girls who were also in similar situations as mine, and we were and still are currently our own little found family. I went to college and graduated with the 2 of them. I moved to a new state just with the 2 of them. My family was busy, and that was fine. I didn't mind because that's just how life is when you have 4 sick siblings. Fast forward to November 2023, and my mom calls me 3 days before Thanksgiving, which is super unusual because we just don't talk anymore. The last time we spoke on the phone was when she was telling me the time and place of my sister's funeral. We text small talk occasionally, and our relationship is incredibly surface level, and honestly, that's an improvement from my high school years when we had no relationship. Mom asked me what time to expect me for Thanksgiving, and I had no idea they were planning Thanksgiving this year. She never mentioned it before this. Now, I already had plans, and also if she wanted me to come for Thanksgiving, I would have needed to book a plane ticket months ago, so giving me 3 days notice is not okay by me. She didn't remember that I live 2 states away now, but was upset that I would leave her alone on Thanksgiving, which felt very guilt-trippy to me because she has dad. When I refused to come after a couple of attempts, she eventually hung up on me. After about 30 minutes of scrolling back to check our messages and making sure and confirming that I didn't miss something, I sent her a text to let her know that I had a skiing trip booked for Christmas this year, but I would love to catch up with her and dad after the new year. Shortly after, I received a text message from dad telling me that if I didn't come home for Christmas, he would stop paying for my college. I then reminded him that I graduated 3 years ago and that if he was still paying for someone's school, he should look into that because he was getting scammed. To be honest, I was pretty upset at this point about the guilt trip as well as the veiled threats, so I just put my phone on mute and I ignored it. Now, my mom did call a couple more times but eventually stopped. She did not text me on Thanksgiving or Christmas and did not respond to me texting her. It's now February and I haven't spoken to my parents since, and my 2 best friends are telling me that I'm kind of a jerk and that they would be super happy if their parents tried to reach out to them. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk, but it really seems like your family is completely out of touch with your life. Like, I can understand them wanting to stay in contact with you, but it seems like they're going about this the wrong way, and it really just seems like a toxic way of dragging you back into the family, and that in my opinion just doesn't settle well with me, and that kind of feels weird. And the fact that your dad would give you an ultimatum about college and be like, well, if you're not going to come along for Christmas, I'm not going to pay for your college. Seriously, buddy, that is not the way to get anybody to do anything for you. It is completely irrational for the original poster to drop everything that he's doing just to come home and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with the 2 of you. And I'm sure they probably would have been willing if you planned this in advance, but it's the fact that they're calling so close to the holiday itself that it honestly feels very manipulative and very inappropriate. And I don't blame you for being upset about this in the slightest. An entitled Karen and her husband freak out on me when I offer to get extra plates for their sons, as they go off on a tangent that they would never eat any of our food and that the only thing they'll ever eat is McDonald's. And I've honestly never been more confused or blown away by someone's weird attitude in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, let me start by giving just a little bit of background information. I've been a server for about 7 years now, almost 8, and this happened to me last night, and I know that you guys are gonna get a kick out of this. So last night we were extremely busy. Also, it was only me and another experienced server on the floor. The other 3 servers were just new hires. I was getting my butt kicked so hard, and so was the other experienced server. The hostess just kept seating us 2 while taking it easy on the new hires, despite being extremely busy and having to make hot tea, which at my restaurant is a huge pain in the neck. We have to take this stupid big box full of several different flavors of hot tea to the table, let them pick out what they want, and then walk all the way back and make the stupid thing. And we have to do this every time, even if they've already had one. Anyways, despite all of this, I was doing great and taking care of my people. Then I got a 5-top. It was 3 kids and their parents. I greeted them, got their drinks, and after giving them their drinks, they were ready to order. But only the parents ordered. Now, I'm a mom as well, and when I go to a restaurant, I always share with my youngest because we both eat like birds. So I asked the mom if she would like 3 extra plates for her kids in case they were going to share. And this is where things went really downhill. The dad laughed and said, "Only if you've got McDonald's in here." The mom then immediately got irritated and started on this rant. She said to me, "My boys are autistic and have sensory issues, and the only thing they can eat is McDonald's." And she just went on and on. At the end of it, I just said, "Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and get the menus out of your way then. So I take their menus and I go send in their order. Everything else goes smoothly, and I check on them after getting their food, with them saying that everything is great. I made sure to refill their drinks when needed, and I didn't even think that there was a problem. They pay their bill and then they left a 10% tip. Then, as they're leaving, they go to my manager and tell them that it was the worst service they've ever had. Luckily, where I work, we have amazing managers who usually side with us servers and will get the facts before just pulling the trigger on us. He asked her what was wrong with her service, but she simply couldn't answer that and instead huffed her way out the door with her family. My manager then came up to me later and told me what happened. I laughed and gave my side of the story, and he laughed, and I obviously had to tell my other servers what happened, and we all got a good laugh about it. Like, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Go to McDonald's for them? Was I supposed to sympathize with her about her 3 autistic kids who had to watch their parents eat first in front of them? My sister is autistic. She has Asperger's, and she doesn't want pity or sympathy. She just wants to be treated like a regular human being, which is exactly what I did for that table. So genuinely, did I do something wrong, or was that table just impossible to save from the start? You didn't do anything wrong. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I mean, here you have a family of 5 people and only 2 of them are ordering food. Like, that seems like a really big red flag, and I think you made the right choice of trying to be relatable and be like, okay, let me get you like 3 extra plates. Because, you know, most kids are gonna be like, wait a second, I want some of your food now that I see it in front of me. Like, that's not unusual for you to try to be accommodating. What is unusual though, is this weird entitled Karen going off on you, being like, oh my god, my kids only like McDonald's, as if you were somehow supposed to like read her mind or something like that. Like, if your kids seriously need to eat at McDonald's or anything like that, then you probably should have gone there, or at least get a babysitter and then go out with just the 2 of you. There's no reason to take this out on the server. They didn't do anything to you. So honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think the way these people acted was incredibly entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled couple at my restaurant job make my life a living nightmare, constantly giving me impatient, dirty looks as if I wasn't already working myself down to the bone. And I seriously hope I never have a day like this ever again in my life. Here's what happened. So I was working at a privately owned fine dining restaurant some years back. It was a 3-story building, and even though we had food runners, all staff was required to help run food to the parties on the floors we weren't working if we were in the kitchen when it was plated. It wasn't an ideal system to begin with, but it became even less so the busier we got. Well, there was one particular Mother's Day where Murphy's Law decided to come and take a massive dump on the place. Reservations had been lost or deliberately not booked by a hostess who had since been fired. Now, in her defense, she was wrongfully terminated, but she completely screwed over us as well as the owners. Also, a nasty bug was going around, and what staff we did have was all sick as dogs, miserable and exhausted from the grueling double we pulled the day before, and the kitchen was 5 tickets deep in the weeds. Our wine rep didn't drop off 3 cases of the featured champagne, and this is stuff that we had advertised at a special price, and our only bartender chose their other job over us that day. So we were stuck making most of our own drinks on top of everything else. It was a complete disaster. So I had an 8-top that was looking to be my only saving grace during this nightmare fever dream that I was working through. We didn't do auto gratuity on holidays, and why that's the case, I will never know. Things had gone well initially, but took a sudden turn into a steep dive off a cliff once we got to the halfway point. We somehow ran out of several menu items, even though we were only 4 hours into the shift, between relaying delays and out of stock food and drink items to them, and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, with trays of food up, down, sideways, and outside. They were getting increasingly impatient and upset, mostly because they couldn't see me working my butt off. I was drenched in sweat. My cuffs looked like I dunked them in coffee from helping load dishes in between running food, and this is because the dishwasher jammed and it took an hour to fix. And my makeup was reminiscent of crying because I got stood up at prom. Things were going downhill very fast, but things get significantly worse when this entitled couple sit in my section. I had a 2-top who had been absolute miserable jerks since the moment their oversized bottoms hit their seats, and their food was up as I staggered dazed into the kitchen as chef is bellowing the phrase hands. We had to substitute one of their sides, and no one had let me know so I could prepare them. So I mentally braced for the chewing out session I was about to walk into. I was 20 feet away when I saw the man at the 2-top frantically looking around. When his beady eyes spotted me, the sneer sneer on his face confirmed that he'd been searching for me and wasn't too pleased about whatever it was he had to wait on. I could see my 8 top heads swiveling as well, the disappointment on their faces when they realized it wasn't their food coming to them, despite having been there for an hour at least. Other tables in my section were all looking distressed as well, whether it be from the hunger, the heat, and the hassle that should have been a nice meal out for their moms or wives. In that moment, my mind cleared and I made a decision. I stumbled, half windmilling my arms as an attempt to maintain my balance and my plates. I initially intended to drop to one knee, valiantly managing to save the beautiful filet with a pat of compound butter melting perfectly on top, and the pan-seared salmon with an artfully drizzled sauce, with parsley carefully placed on the side, cut from the chef's personal herb garden. But what I failed to take into account was my naturally clumsy nature that I had to fight tooth and nail to overcome every single shift I work when hastily crafting this plan. So what actually happened was I pitched headfirst into the water station, upending an entire tray of heavy, polished silverware and a half-filled stainless steel pitcher onto my head, while sending my dishes flying down the aisle, where they exploded on the metal base of table 44. Now, even my awful 2-top ended up leaving 18%, and the 8-top collectively left me over 25%. I wouldn't even try for sympathy tips if the mistakes were my fault, but this day especially was completely out of my control, so I just don't feel bad doing what I needed to do. Yeah, that is a really rough situation. It clearly sounds like one of those days where if it can go wrong, it definitely will. And it doesn't help that you have people staring at you begging for your food, almost saying to you, wow, you need to work harder. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm literally running with my head cut off. So hopefully things work out in the future and you're able to have better days at that restaurant, because what you described definitely sounded incredibly awful. My retired mother lives with me rent-free and I honestly want out. But if I leave, she will literally be left with nothing. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother is retired and has no income other than a couple of stock dividends that she's had for years and Social Security from my father, who passed away about 26 years ago. She is unable to work due to medical reasons. She cannot get medical disability or retirement benefits from my understanding, as both would negate the Social Security and she would be paid even less. I am paying 100% of the rent, the gas and electric, as well as any streaming services and Spotify. I also pay for my own personal bills, which include my insurance, my car note, my cell phone, credit cards, gasoline, I mean, you name it. My mother is only responsible for the internet bill and food. She also pays for her own personal bills, but complains that she can barely afford that. She is extremely difficult to live with and very dependent. She has severe depression with some anxiety. She can't seem to find a doctor that she likes, and there have also been a lot of medication changes lately. This hasn't been the cause of any mental illness, but it has certainly made things a lot worse. She gets very angry and nasty sometimes, and there is no reasoning with her. She will get offended at anything, and it's honestly not pleasant. And no, this is not dementia or anything of the sort. I do speak to her regular doctors, and she's not committable. My mother guilt trips me constantly over anything and everything, always needs to know what I'm doing, and is always criticizing everything. I mean, nothing is ever good enough. I can't date anyone because she will tear them apart. She cannot see the good in them, only the bad, and this has gone on since I was a teenager. I've tried just not discussing anyone I'm dating, but then it turns into how I don't ever talk to her about anything, and that I never want to hear what she has to say. I basically live in my room when I'm home because I just can't be around her. The point of this whole thing is that I just don't know what to do. I do love my mother very much, but we've had a strained relationship since I was a teenager. Setting boundaries doesn't work, putting my foot down doesn't work. We've had discussion after discussion. I want to be able to live my life. I cannot live like this any longer. I'm not looking for judgment, I'm just looking for advice. It makes me sick to my stomach to even think about moving somewhere without her. I mean, she has nothing. How can I move on with my life without ruining hers? What should I do? Wow, this really sounds like a tricky situation, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like your mom has nowhere else to go. For context, the original poster is 40 years old and their mom is 70. She's got no income, she's got nothing besides what, Social Security and a few other things. Like, this really is a rock and a hard place situation, and it really is unfair to you completely. But I think you need to remember going into this, regardless of what you choose to do, that no matter how you try to phrase it or how you try to go about this, your mom is probably going to freak out on you the second you try to move out without her. I think that is just inevitable, and I think you need to understand that going into this. She clearly doesn't respect you, and she treats you like garbage and is clearly using you, so it's honestly unfortunate and it's really not fair. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So hopefully you can find some kind of solution. I don't know if there's some kind of like local service that can help you transition her into her like own home or something like that. But regardless, I honestly hope it works out in your favor because the way your mom is treating you is honestly not fair. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she called my partner a gold digger? Because right now I am still upset. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I come from a well-off family, but my dad always taught me to work hard and have class. When I was 14 years old, I started working at my dad's company part-time to earn my allowance. And when I turned 16, I became a real part-time employee. My dad decided to retire when I was 29 years old and handed the business to me. Back in my second year of university, I met Kim. Kim is not his real name. We were in the same course and ended up in the same group for a group project near the beginning of the year. We had a similar sense of humor and clicked as friends very quickly. One day, he mentioned he loves to cook and told me that we should cook together because I love to cook as well. And that weekend, we went to his place, bought some ingredients, and cooked together. This then became us going shopping for ingredients after class on Friday, and I would stay the night at his place and we would cook on the weekend, and this became our weekly routine. Now, back then, I just told others that we were just friends, but in hindsight, this is definitely when I started to fall for him. I finally asked him out a few months later, and he said yes. We lived in the same house with two other friends in our third year, and I asked him to move in with me after we graduated. From the beginning, I told Kim that I would not care if he didn't work, but he insisted he wanted to contribute financially. But after about a year, I had to make him stop. Due to the difference in our incomes, he was working himself half to death and was getting ill trying to contribute enough. I sat him down and I told him that whatever money he made didn't matter, that if he wanted to work, I wanted him to be happy. So he cut back his hours, then moved to part-time, and then decided to quit and work on his own projects. But he insisted that I let him take on some of the housework. Now, with that bit out of the way, this is where some of the issues begin. My sister and her partner both work, and he makes significantly less than her. And in private to me, she's made it known to me that she resents being the breadwinner. She sees all her male colleagues spoil and treat their wives, and wishes her partner would do the same. Now, he does treat her, but just not to the same level due to the fact that he basically makes about half as much as they do. Now, recently, I was talking to her about what I was going to get Kim for his birthday next month. She kept telling me that my ideas were too much and that I should get something cheaper since he doesn't contribute. Now, when she said that, I got a bit annoyed because I told her about Kim's insecurities of not making or being enough, and I told her he contributes more than enough. But then she said something that honestly blew my mind. She called him a glorified gold digger. And when she said that, I yelled at her. I told her to shut up and to not talk about Kim in that way. After calming down, I do feel bad. I know how she feels about her own financial position, but I don't think it's fair that she takes it out on me or Kim, even if Kim wasn't physically there. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister sounds like she's really like projecting her frustrations and insecurities on you, and it almost sounds like she's trying to demonize Kim in some kind of way. Like, for starters, your situation is none of her business, and she has no say in how you handle your house. So for her to be like, oh, he's just a gold digger, he's just getting money from you, or to even imply that Kim is mooching off of you in some kind of way, that is incredibly insulting, and I wouldn't put up with that for a second. It's downright disturbing for her to make that kind of assumption when you know for a fact that she's talking about her own relationship. She basically wishes she could be in Kim's situation because it sounds like she doesn't want to work. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your sister is absolutely out of line, and what she's saying is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling a new friend not to come to brunch unless she could try to keep the conversations light? Because every time I've talked to her, she has always dumped her emotional baggage at my doorstep, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Let me start off by saying that I've had an awful week. I won't go into every unnecessary detail, but suffice to say the collision of various medical, work, and relationship stressors all at once have definitely pushed me to my last nerve. I banged my wrist on a doorknob yesterday, and I sunk to the floor and cried on the spot for half an hour. And this is because I simply couldn't take one more thing right now. I had brunch planned for today with a pretty new acquaintance. It was actually scheduled weeks ago, so I didn't anticipate what kind of shape I was gonna be in for today. We've hung out a handful of times and we have a lot in common, but she has a bit of an oversharing problem. My life sucks in the short term because right now I'm like a lightning rod for 2 years worth of garbage that's all going wrong all at once. Her life sucks for more long term because of family and mental health related reasons, which she has started going into ever increasing levels of morose detail. And I've got to be honest, it is way too much for how little we actually know each other. I am really not in a place to become close friends with someone who chronically does not have a modicum of their stuff together, but because of my current lightning rod situation, I have not been able to make a clean break. So I figured I would just get through today and that I would tell her I need to take a step back when I had a crumb of dopamine to spare for that uncomfortable conversation. So at like 6 in the morning, she texted me stuff like, "You are literally the only person I can trust," and also saying that her life is falling apart because she has a week to find her own place. And I'm thinking, okay, that's relatable, but also, what are you talking about? I am not your Facebook wall circa 2011, and I'm just thinking ahead to the hour-long hardcore trauma dump session that I am literally about to endure. So I text her back and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry for everything that you're going through right now, but I am really in no position to be anyone's emotional support right now. So if you don't think we can have a brunch today without you bringing up intense stuff, I would rather cancel." She responded back by saying, "Wow, okay," followed up several hours later with a bombardment of tweets about how the world doesn't revolve around me, and how she's so sorry that the stuff she's going through in her life right now simply didn't wait until it was convenient for me, while also saying that it sucks to be vulnerable and in need of a listening ear and be told essentially to shut up. She also said that I care more about enjoying my brunch than I do about being an empathetic person. Now, I don't know if my exhaustion and stress made me act like an awful person, or if it made me justified to want to have a meal where I could actually relax for an hour. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? In my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think the fact that you were open and honest with this friend was really a good step in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the way you may have said this to this friend was a little bit aggressive, and it could have been like reworded in some kind of way, but I think her reaction is completely over the top. She was definitely looking to dump her emotional baggage on you, and that after a long time, especially with a new friend, is like really weird. Like, I'm all about being a listening ear for just about anybody, and I'm more than willing to help out if I can. But when every single conversation goes in this direction, honestly, that is incredibly exhausting, and I just don't think I would want to deal with that in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think the other girl in this situation has a really weird attitude, and I do not think that you were in the wrong for setting up expectations for the brunch you were going to share. Am I the jerk for not caring about my parents or even wanting to get to know them? Because at this point, I have my own life, and I'm kind of sick of their guilt tripping all of the time. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and I was the last child in my family. I'm the youngest of 5, and I'm the only one without severe health or mental issues, so I fell through the cracks. I spent almost all my time alone in my room reading or playing video games, and I generally didn't mind this. And I also want to make it clear here that I don't resent my parents or siblings. They didn't parentify me or make me my sibling's caretaker. My things were never taken for my siblings' benefit. I was just invisible because I didn't need them the way the other 4 did. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I made friends with 2 girls who were also in similar situations as mine, and we were and still are currently our own little found family. I went to college and graduated with the 2 of them. I moved to a new state just with the 2 of them. My family was busy, and that was fine. I didn't mind because that's just how life is when you have 4 sick siblings. Fast forward to November 2023, and my mom calls me 3 days before Thanksgiving, which is super unusual because we just don't talk anymore. The last time we spoke on the phone was when she was telling me the time and place of my sister's funeral. We text small talk occasionally, and our relationship is incredibly surface level, and honestly, that's an improvement from my high school years when we had no relationship. Mom asked me what time to expect me for Thanksgiving, and I had no idea they were planning Thanksgiving this year. She never mentioned it before this. Now, I already had plans, and also if she wanted me to come for Thanksgiving, I would have needed to book a plane ticket months ago. So giving me 3 days notice is not okay by me. She didn't remember that I live 2 states away now, but was upset that I would leave her alone on Thanksgiving, which felt very guilt-trippy to me because she has dad. When I refused to come after a couple of attempts, she eventually hung up on me. After about 30 minutes of scrolling back to check our messages and making sure and confirming that I didn't miss something, I sent her a text to let her know that I had a skiing trip booked for Christmas this year, but I would love to catch up with her and dad after the new year. Shortly after, I received a text message from dad telling me that if I didn't come home for Christmas, he would stop paying for my college. I then reminded him that I graduated 3 years ago and that if he was still paying for someone's school, he should look into that because he was getting scammed. To be honest, I was pretty upset at this point about the guilt trip as well as the veiled threats, so I just put my phone on mute and I ignored it. Now, my mom did call a couple more times but eventually stopped. She did not text me on Thanksgiving or Christmas and did not respond to me texting her. It's now February and I haven't spoken to my parents since, and my 2 best friends are telling me that I'm kind of a jerk and that they would be super happy if their parents tried to reach reach out to them. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk, but it really seems like your family is completely out of touch with your life. Like, I can understand them wanting to like stay in contact with you, but it seems like they're going about this the wrong way, and it really just seems like a toxic way of like dragging you back into the family, and that in my opinion just doesn't settle well with me, and that kind of feels weird. And the fact that your dad would give you an ultimatum about college and be like, well, if you're not going to come along for Christmas, I'm not going to pay for your college. Like, seriously, buddy, that is not the way to get anybody to do anything for you. It is completely irrational for the original poster to drop everything that he's doing just to come home and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with the two of you. And I'm sure they probably would have been willing if you like planned this in advance, but it's the fact that they're calling so close to the holiday itself that it honestly feels very manipulative and very inappropriate. And I don't blame you for being upset about this in the slightest. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, and don't forget to check out Am I the Genius in the process. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.